brothers on the rise now. Woo! Endless celebrations all in my house. Yeah. Levitating now, I'm super duper fly now. Yeah. London boy, but DC where I reside now. Put the time in while you always yelling time out. And for quit it, cause I know I'm coming with it. You were sitting, you were wishing I was handling my business. Yeah. Now I got the ball like Harry Potter playing Quidditch. And my business so humongous, you would think that happens in it. Oh man, I'm all that, yeah, I'm all that. Looking for that whip, yeah, that what you call that. I'ma blow up in the summer, have him yelling fall back. And I've always been ahead like an effing ball cap. Man, I came in the game like, whoa. Got a couple chains on me cause I like gold. They told me I'm the best and I told them I know. Cause when I'm in your town, every ticket I sold. Yeah, they saying I'm the man. Facts, bro. Facts, lot of haters. Tell me where they at, though. I'm the new pop, all I do is rap, though. Yeah. Want me on your song, throw a couple stacks, yo. Woo! Everybody wanna do the same thing. Yup. That's why we ain't on the same page. No. Do my own thing, and I maintain. Woo! Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. I'm going mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. Yeah, I'm going mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. I'm going mainstream. Mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. Yup. I'm going mainstream. Damn. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. So I'm going mainstream.
Hello and welcome to Xbox Infinite. We've got a massive show for you this week, so I won't mess around too much at the start. But wow, what a week and what a set of guests. So I'll introduce our guests, even though none of them really need an introduction. If you're familiar with the show, even Jack is famous. Welcome to the show, Fonz. How you doing, man? Thanks for coming along.
Hey, I'm doing good. Thank you for the invite. I was looking forward to this. I'm sorry, I may have caused you guys to run a bit late, but I apologize. There was a lot of confusion behind the scenes. But anyways, I'm here, ready to go.
No, it's absolutely fine, mate. We're just stoked to have you on the show. As we are with Dreadpool, man. How you doing? Welcome to the show from Gaming Beyond the Box there. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. As you guys can all tell, I just woke up a little bit ago, but I was early. I wanted to make sure that I didn't cause any issues. I'm throwing a shade at you, Fonz. But, no, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation to hang out with you guys and talk some games.
Fantastic. And as we could not get Elon Musk or the Pope, we had to get Jack. How you doing, Jack, man? Welcome back to the show. You're almost a permanent.
No, I appreciate it very much. No, I understand you and Elon are very tight. He's busy opening that massive, billion-dollar factory in Germany. So, no, it's great to be here. Happy to talk games with you guys, chop it up. As always, you guys are my favorites. So, yeah, no, thanks for being here. Can't wait to hear what we're going to be doing.
Awesome. And as always, our returning panel members, JediKnightPete and Umbra. Jedi, how's your week been?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, just amazing to have Fonzarella Gaming and Dreadpool here. Can't wait. Xbox Infinite. Let's go, boys.
And Umbra, what is that crown upon your symbol?
If you all didn't know, I am now the Elden Lord. Yes, you may now worship your liege. No, yeah, just excited to have these great guests on here this week and talk about gaming and, of course, the Halo TV show.
Oh, yeah, and we are going to get pretty much straight into topics this week because we have a lot to get through, and I want to respect our guests' time. If you are just joining us, though, and this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button and hit that bell to be notified when we go live at 8 p.m. EST, thanks to Daylight Savings every Friday. Let's get into it. Halo TV show. Wow. There's a lot of discourse about this on Twitter and in the community, and in some of the groups that I'm in, Halo groups that I'm in. And there's a lot of shade being thrown. There's also a lot of love. It seems very polarizing show. I am going to take it to Fonzarelli first because I know that you have an interesting take. I know you've got an interesting take on this. What did you think of the show, Fonz?
Okay, so it's very reminiscent of those sci-fi shows that come out every few years on those obscure cable TV channels that don't do very well. Things like Earth 2 or Terra Nova, that sort of thing.
I like Terra Nova.
Yeah, I didn't, but that's besides the point. Basically what I'm saying, it's just not good in my opinion. Like there's a lot that if you're gonna do the whole Halo thing within the Halo universe, respect source material is all I'm saying. And they're not really doing that in the show. And we all knew that going in because what did they say? The director said that he wasn't even following the games, like he didn't even look at the games at all. And it's evident, especially by the way that Master Chief has been carried out during the first episode. And I don't like the fact that they really the first episode anyway, really kind of focused on that young girl. And when I saw the trailers, I was worried about that. And they kind of did that. And I could care less about that girl. Could care less. Like her whole story and everything. The only thing I liked that she had anything to do with was the beginning when all those kids were getting decimated. I was like, I couldn't believe some of the stuff. It started off great. When those kids were getting blasted, I was like, whoa, what is this? Like, I stood up like, okay.
There's like legs really flying everywhere and shit.
The first 10, 15 minutes was really good. And then all of a sudden, it just went downhill from there for me. Yeah,
right. He did actually, the showrunner, Stephen Kenneth or whatever his name is, he actually retracted that statement later on and said that he was misquoted. But if you watch the show,
marketing spin, mate.
Yeah, if you watch the show, I don't think he misquoted anything. I think he made a bit of a mistake in telling the truth. And
one more thing. Who the hell said some human could be on the High Council of the Covenant?
Oh,
yeah, right. Yeah,
I complained about that too.
Wow.
I complained about that too.
Respect source material. Like, oh man. I'm just saying, like, look, if you like it, don't take what I say to be offensive. If you like it, I can't tell you you're wrong. Somebody on the panel said they liked Terra Nova. That's cool. I didn't, but I'm just telling you, like, this is just my opinion, people. I think it's a bad show so far. I think it's going to be bad regardless because of where the direction it's already headed. And what they've done to Master Chief, what they've done with the Covenant, again, a human on the High Council. That's so weird.
It's
so
very
backwards.
Weird. And how are they going to explain that? I can't wait.
And I'm sure they're going to have some craziness involved. I don't know what they're going to do, but there's going to be a big reason for that for sure. But I don't care. I'm out. I've checked out already. I'm not going into the second episode. But for you guys that like it, enjoy it.
I'm going to take it to Umbra, man, because I think we need to get some positiveness. But before we go forward, chat, guys, thanks for being here. I just want you to know that any shade that we're throwing at this TV show, it comes from a place of love for the Halo game series. So, yeah, I mean, like Fon said, we're not telling you that you shouldn't watch it or that it's bad. It's just bad for us. Well, yeah. It's mid.
Charlie Hustle, you're right. I did hate the kids. Yeah,
Umbra,
their haircuts were awful.
Oh, the haircuts were off. I was like,
what are you talking about? That is just beautiful.
What are they? You hated it too.
It's terrible.
As somebody who grew up in an Asian family,
the worst. I mean, Aussies usually love mullets, but these are some
no, but here's the thing,
mullets.
bro. As someone who grew up in an Asian family, my father being Filipino, as a kid, as the white kid in the family, and I have all my Filipino cousins and stuff, I had the same bowl haircut, and let me tell you, it was embarrassing. And for them to do this to an Asian on the TV, I was like, whoa, what are we doing here? What is this stereotype?
Yeah. Why? Yeah, why? Just explain why. It makes no sense.
That right there is just stylism.
That's the futuristic. That's the futuristic haircuts right there. You all got to get with this. It's happening. But you know what?
I look like a marshmallow.
You look at those haircuts and you wonder if Kim Jong-un won. You know, you're like, what?
So I fully expect to see Harjeet out there with that haircut in the next year. But you know,
so it's confirmed. Bowls are still in the future.
Yeah, that's true. Haircuts.
Yeah, no one's saying that you can't like it, Jimbo. If you liked it, that's great, mate.
Yeah, you know what?
I don't
Listen.
think it was.
So everybody who liked it or disliked it, it is what it is. You have your right to your opinion. My thing was this. I gave it a 7 out of 10 overall. Maybe if I watch it, I might lower it. I'm not too sure.
Wrong.
Maybe I'm being.
No, I'm just kidding.
I might be a little bit too kind because I love the franchise so much. I feel like it's only the first episode, so I won't judge it too harshly yet. I'll give it 2 more shows to see. But there are a few negatives I think we can all agree on. Those haircuts being number one. No, I'm joking. No, honestly, seeing that lady up there in High Charity, it was like, why is she here? Why did you do this? Talking to Mercy, the Prophet Mercy, rather. It was like, okay, that's odd. But you know what? I have to give them time, I feel, to try to explain what it is, because I'm pretty sure they're using the girl, obviously, to try to redo the, to activate the ring. So I'm going to give it time for that reason. As far as the helmet thing, I know that was a big point of contention. Chief removes his helmet all the time, people, in the books and in the games, actually. If you actually pay attention to it, we just don't see it. So I didn't have that as a negative. I will say, though, him sounding a little panicky when he was explaining to her what to do in the Pelican was a little off-putting, because Chief is so calm under these types of situations. Kind of hearing him talk like that was like, okay, yeah. But
can I just say one thing just to rebuttal what you said about the helmet? For me, the issue with the helmet wasn't the fact that, he took it off and they don't do that. For me, it was he took it off in a way that wasn't, it didn't leave that mystery behind Master Chief. Like even in the games, like you mentioned, we don't see it happen. And I liked that mystery. I liked not knowing just yet. And for them to do it in the very first episode, the way it was done as well. Yeah. It was just like, just normal. It was like,
I can kind of see that. It didn't have any kind of mystique
build up to it. Yeah, no build up to it at all. Just happened in the first episode for no real reason. And they could have cut that scene much differently. Like, could have just cut from behind and seen the expression on her face or something like that. Keep a little bit of mystery for the audience.
And he left it off. He got into the shit. We're taking off. We're being shot at here, right? And the helmet was off the whole time. And I was just sitting there. I was literally standing up. Put it back on. Put it back on.
Well, interesting fact. You're not allowed to get into any military vehicle without a helmet. So I found that to be, just in terms of the realism behind it.
He's breaking the rules.
I gave it a little leeway because they were trying to hurry up and escape, right? So I was kind of like, okay, I'll give it a little leeway because they were trying to get out of there before the systems came back online. So I gave
And
it a
let's
little.
be real, it's a
that.
very different Master Chief. This is
True.
not Master Chief from the
that's
video game because I mean, this guy sat there and tried to tell a joke to the girl. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Nuts joke.
I didn't like
that
that either. I thought
fell
that was
so
kinda weird.
flat.
It was, but you know what? I think it was purposely cheesy because, and this is another thing I pointed out because we talked about this in the green room before we started. Because I know Jedi mentioned the exact same thing you just said, and I said, well, my thinking is once he touched that artifact, it kind of brought him back to his humanity a little bit, because you notice he had been more human right after that. At the beginning, in the first 18 minutes, he was very robotic
That's
and
true.
kind of chief-like at first, with the way he was just counting the dead bodies. 150 dead, blah blah blah. It didn't mean anything. But after he touched the artifact, that's when he started to change. So
Yeah,
I think
look-
they're playing into that.
We,
Yeah,
talked
'cause you
about
could
that.
tell even-
We talked about
even
that
the
earlier.
people that
And
I forgot it was what who was it in there was some humans talking about that at the headquarters when he did that and after he told them that he touched it and was thinking about the past and stuff.
Yeah,
they
it
were
was
kind of worried
Halsey
about
and the
that.
Emerald.
Like,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And they were kind of worried about him remembering that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, they were.
I think you're right, Umbra. I think that's probably something that touched him in a way where it was like,
I think so.
he's remembering too much and humanizing him too much. As a Spartan,
Yep.
they don't want that.
Exactly.
Yeah, we apologize if we're giving away spoilers, guys, but it's pretty hard to talk about the TV
yeah, I'm
show without
sorry.
explaining what happened. Look, I mean, obviously it's going to be up to yourselves to make up your own minds. I recommend watching it. At the end of the day, it's still a TV show about Halo. Make up your own minds. But if you don't want to know anything about the show, then yeah, I mean, we are going to be talking about it today.
Yeah, so look, with what Umbra was saying, I don't think, if that's true, Umbra, and I think you're probably bang on with that assessment. We talked about it earlier in the week, and we were in agreement on that. But they didn't give it enough time to set up for these casuals, the filthy casuals, the casuals who don't know Master Chief, right? And they don't know that he's robotic. He's like that. He's very staunch. He's very like stoic. Yeah, and I think that like they should have given more of a setup. Like his helmet's off in the first episode. All of a sudden he's acting very human in the first episode. Like, what the hell do they just want to change the dude completely? Like, I mean, if you look at reboots of lore and you want to go back and see it done right, I mean, look at Star Trek. I don't know if people are Star Trek fans. When they rebooted Star Trek, they rebooted it in the perfect way. They started off in a whole different universe. It made sense. There was no massive plot holes the size of the moon in the script. Like, that's how you do it. And I don't think you need a massive budget to reboot a franchise. I mean, yeah, I could deal with the jankiness of. There was a little bit of jankiness. I know you guys would have noticed it in the movements of the Master Chief and the Spartans.
Yeah,
The CGI,
Yeah.
basically.
That was very questionable at times.
And
But,
you can ignore that. Like, if the writing's good, but God help me, the writing is terrible. Dreadpool.
And there was one actress that was really terrible. I'm sorry, but it was.
Yeah,
it
a
was
lot
bad.
of them were Fonz. Yeah,
But there was one in particular that I was just like, this is terrible.
which one? Which one?
The young girl, not the young girl, not the one that can't remember her name. Not the Asian girl, but the other one that was
Miranda Keys.
Yeah,
I
Miranda.
think that's the one.
Yeah.
I think that's the one.
Yeah,
I
Miranda,
thought she was
was
alright.
talking.
I
thought
thought
so
so
There was one
too.
point
I know
where she was
Cameron
her
disagree
the
with me,
acting
but
was
I
bad.
really, I think that too, mate. Yep.
So
Yeah, now,
Dreadpool,
let
you
me
haven't
ask
had a
you all
chance to
before we
watch-
go on. What did you all think about the race swapping thing with the keys? Did you all have an issue
I
with
don't
that?
care.
Because I didn't. Yeah, I didn't have
I
a
didn't.
problem.
It's not really integral to the role. Like,
I agree.
like when
I've got a big
I don't
problem
care
with it.
about stuff like that if it's done, I don't care.
I've got a big problem with it, and the reason why I've got a big problem with it is because they have such an expansive universe that they can build on, and like they said, they're not going to focus on core canon characters. This isn't going to be canon. They could have written in, another person as a strong black man or a strong black woman or whatever, however you want to put it. Why do you have to change Captain and Miranda Keys, who are loved within the Halo community? I mean, especially Miranda. She's got some of the greatest cutscenes in all of Halo.
But did they
when
love
she-
them because of their race or their character?
No,
Like,
because of their
Right.
character, and that's it. And then why? And therefore, why change them? What? Like, there's absolutely no need to do it. Absolutely
Right.
no need to do it. It
Who
just
likes-
requires you to write in a new character, which you have a whole universe to build on. Especially if it's not going to.
I want a footnote.
Fury, though.
I want a footnote.
Let's put it that way.
Let me
Right, everybody loves Nick Fury.
Let me footnote this. Let me footnote this because this is something that's the. Pete, are you white or are you tanned? I just want people to know in the chat.
I am not white. I'm half, mate.
Right. So I just want people to know in the chat.
Oh, no. And I'm not insinuating. Believe me, I'm not coming at Pete like insinuating any of that nonsense. I respect certain things like certain characters when they'll swap genders or race or whatever. If it's a really big character to me anyway, or if I see something, then it's kind of like, I don't understand why they do that. They can make other characters. I get what Pete's saying, but in this case, it didn't bother me. Mm-hmm. It didn't bother me.
I think what Pete's trying to get to, though, I think it comes back to sort of what we were all kind of discussing, especially in the green room. There seems to be, at least for us, I don't want to say dinosaurs, but for those of us that were there at the beginning, I mean, I remember being on a sleepover because, I think I was like 12 years old when I first played Halo on the original Xbox, stayed up all night, beat it with my friend on the hardest difficulty. I think the problem is for us, I think there seems to be too many creative liberties taken, with the direction that they've chosen to go. And at least on the outset, obviously, we're only a single episode in, it's not early enough to sort of concretely make that determination. And I think we're all in agreement on that. You want to give it a little time. I think the average viewer gives a program that they just hit that they're not really associated with about 3 episodes before they determine whether or not that's something they'll continue investing sort of their time. And I think it's 3 episodes. So I think I think what Pete is getting to is the race swapping is unnecessary. I wasn't fond of it. Maybe it wasn't a deal breaker. I don't think it was as severe for me as it was for Pete, but I totally understand where he's coming from. I think it goes to the issue of creative liberties being taken in directions that are so antithetical to Halo. And I think Fawn's brought it up. I mean, you have humans on the Covenant High Council when the entire Covenant's sort of socio-religious doctrine is to kill us on sight because we're heretics. So it's ridiculous.
It doesn't ruin the show for me, Jack. It's a culmination of everything. It's just another factor that adds to them shitting on the law. And it's a culmination of all things, and it doesn't ruin it for me. Don't get me wrong, and I actually really like the actor that's playing Captain Keyes. He's awesome. Like, he is one of my favorite actors in the actual show. He has this authority and power behind him. I think they've cast him really well. Even though they've race swapped him.
No, Bokeem is not him. It's
that was
we call him Keasanti. That's what we're calling him now.
Keasanti, bro.
That's exactly what he looks like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He just
I felt
used just for man in his beard. Yeah.
You're right.
Guys, we do have to move on. But before we do move on, Dredd, you didn't get a chance to watch the Halo series just yet. Was that right?
Yeah, that's right. But I still got some thoughts behind all this. Even with listening to you guys, I'll forget about what was said But
far away.
Forgettable.
That's easily forgettable. I understand.
Yeah. But I think the basic problem from what I'm hearing, right? And I'm going to be, the Halo stan. I'm going to sit there, but I'm also going to be open-minded about it because I know it's not canon. I know that it's another universe, blah, 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 whatever. When it comes to, like, the helmet, the helmet's supposed to be symbolic. Right? You don't see the first time unless you beat it on Legendary where he pulls the helmet off in the ship. But yet again, you don't see his face. And I know it's
only his eyes.
You know what I mean? There's symbolic times that he does this. It's not just, we're gonna, I'm in a hurry. Let's just take the helmet off and do whatever. It's like Star
and even
Wars,
that
right?
was scoffed at when they did that at the end of Halo 4 and Legendary Edition. That was quite controversial when they did do that. And if you watch this, his eyes aren't anything like that. He basically looks like he's
spoilers, Pete. Spoilers.
Pampered man-child, like when he takes off his helmet, he doesn't look like a soldier at all. Doesn't look like he's had a hard day.
Pete, I'll point out though, by the point when we saw Chief's eyes like that, remember that was many years into it at that point. So this is a younger Chief right here.
That is true, right? Mate.
You know,
So-
and that's the thing. You know, like lightsabers in Star Wars. You know, you're cutting off humans' limbs. That's a symbolic thing. You don't just do that. You can
laser
destroy
swords?
you can cut up an alien, but you can't do that with a human, right? So when it comes to something like that, it tells you that this is an important thing, and that's why, you know, I still think that with what they did, they didn't really do it right, and that's part of story writing. That's part of, you know, you can't really blame the actors if the script is bad. You can't blame the actors if the recording and the editing and, you know, all the rest of the stuff with the direction is bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
The actors can only do so well with what's been given to them. Granted, they could still portray a bad character and do well, or do bad with a great character that could have had potential. So it's a culmination of everything, and this is where it sounds like it's faltered between the script writing, the lore and the history that's behind this, right? Because we have a huge history that they need to respect.
You nailed
it sounds
Brad.
They
You nailed
haven't,
it.
which they haven't, mate.
And I'm
That's
the
what I mean.
one that hasn't seen it.
Yeah.
Look, I don't think the actors ruin it for me. What ruins it for me, and I want to stress this point, is the writing. The writing is terrible. It has, I mean, the first 20 minutes, I think Fonz was saying it, is phenomenal.
It's good,
I can
really good.
forgive the CGI misfalls and all that kind
And
of stuff.
forgive the
you know?
elites looking like they've eaten, you know, 100 bowls
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
Wheaties, and they're just
The
they're
brute
huge.
elites.
They're massive.
So you take
Yeah,
away
there
that
you go.
first 20 minutes, that leaves 40 minutes for the rest of the showtime, and the
that's-
amount of plot holes that are in that 40 minutes, it's
They're
like they actually tried. It's very difficult to put that many plot holes in such a short period of time. It's like they have intentionally tried to put them in there. It is just terrible writing. It looks like they have focused on diversity and inclusiveness and actually writing a good show. That's what it feels like to me, and it's typical Hollywood. They take a pre-existing loved franchise and they pull on the heartstrings of the community that love Halo like we all do, and they change it so completely that it's unrecognizable to us.
Agreed.
Yeah, you see, and that's
know,
the thing, though.
I
It
gotta
seems
second
like
that.
they're pushing to get this episode out, to get it into completing a narrative, right? As opposed to let's push this part off a little bit. Let's push this part out, stretch it out a little, get you hooked like they did in the first 20 minutes. But they should have not dragged it on, but kept it interesting enough with enough hooks to go, okay, well, you know, and that could be their plot holes. Is we don't know just yet, because you know, in their mind they're thinking it's a hook.
Well, they didn't. They didn't.
You can-
They didn't
do it all.
respectfully. They didn't respectfully build the world. They didn't take any time of building the world, building the
Exactly.
lore,
That's what I'm
explaining
getting
what's
at.
going on.
But that's what I'm getting at. That's
Yeah.
what that's
you know
what I'm
what,
getting
guys?
at.
You
They
gotta keep in
didn't
mind
set
though,
it
this
up.
is only the first episode, so we got a lot
Right.
more to go.
Unlike
We've seen
Fonz, I
Magic,
will
we've
be
seen
watching.
Magic Ball, we've seen
I will be watching the
ships,
rest
we've
of this.
seen
I'm not going to
High
drop it now.
Charity.
I
And,
think that's the problem, is the fact
this-
that it's the first episode and they tried to do too much
Too much.
fast.
That's right.
Mm,
That's
right.
right.
I
And-
kinda-
and
I
they
kinda
pushed
agree
a
with that.
lot
This
of
is-
different narratives within this episode, and
Yeah.
things that a lot of different things that didn't respect the lore at all. And again, you guys can say, who cares about the lore? You know, this is totally different. They've said so. I'm sorry, I care about that to a certain degree.
No, I
because
care about the
I
Lord.
do
The only people,
even if this
the only
was
reason people are there is because we're Halo fans. You're right,
exactly,
Fonz.
and
It
if
makes a
they're trying to
difference.
do something totally different, then don't call it Halo. Call it
Exactly.
something else.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
Exactly. Well
Does
said,
anyone
mate.
else
Yeah.
feel cheated? I felt cheated watching it. I felt
did too.
because I'm like all of you. I played these games on Legendary difficulty. It was so much of they were a fundamental nexus of everything that made me love games in general. You know, I mean, all the memories we've shared. I mean, last week in the case of me, Riskit, Umbra, and you know, and Jedi, and I feel like this entire show was not. After, 15, 20 years, this entire show wasn't marketed to me. You know, it wasn't marketed to you guys. It was after everything we played and everything we've done, and it was guys like all of us that got Halo to where it is. And now they're showing faces, and they're flagrantly changing the entire covenant religious doctrine, which is why they're exterminating. It felt like a slap in the face. They bastardized it.
I hear you on that, Jack. But then again, I think maybe we're being a little too harsh because it is just the first episode. So I think we got to give it just a little bit of leeway.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna.
Let's say three. Let's say 3 episodes in and see where they go. Because again, I think they changed it enough.
Oh, I'll give it the season, but I'm very jaded.
Yeah, and I get it. I get that feeling, but I say that only because I feel like this first episode, like Fonz pointed out, they're trying to do so much, and I think that was to cater to us because that first 18 minutes, that was pure catering to the Halo game. I feel. Yeah, and I was surprised by the violence and everything. I liked it a lot.
That's what annoys me, Umbra. That's what really annoys me because
the rest was Hollywood.
That's how good the show could be. Like that first 20 minutes sent shivers down my spine. How long has it been since you've sat down and just been enthralled by, watching something that you love come onto screen and then just to piss it away with the writing in the next 40 minutes is just so incredibly disappointing. And I've watched it twice now. I've gone back and watched it again. And to be honest, my thoughts of it went down from a 6 to a 4. Sorry, Fonz.
I can't help but compare it to The Mandalorian. I can't, okay? Because that's another sci-fi show that did it right. Like, they didn't respect every single ounce of the lore or whatever within Star Wars or the Boba Fett, but at the same time they did just enough. They did a lot there that played to those fans, and then they did other things that was just like they did it right. The writing was good. It was solid.
It's really good.
And in this it's kind of like they followed in those footsteps a bit where they tried to, like, it seems like the girl was kind of like the baby Yoda of this Halo show. And here Halo, Master Chief.
You know what I called her, Fonz?
Is Mandalorian.
I was in that space. I called her like that Indian in Indiana Jones, that Asian kid that was in there. Hey, Indian.
Yeah, but
please,
I love that dude. That dude was great.
The reason why it doesn't work is because in The Mandalorian they didn't have to say too much in the show. There was a lot of episodes there where there was hardly any dialogue at all. But you understood what was going on and liked
the
what
acting and the world building made that show what it is. It's just like they could say so much by just the world around it, and the actors themselves did an amazingly good job building that world up, and they didn't throw it all in your face in 40 minutes.
And the whole mystique with the Mandalorian and him not taking that helmet off till the very end. That was amazing. They could have done that within the first
key moment.
season.
Listen, guys,
that would be a phenomenal moment.
We gotta move on. We gotta move on from this from this topic.
Let me finish my.
Sorry.
All right, let me finish my last part of it. Yeah. After everything is said, in retrospect, it sounds like they didn't appreciate or develop a proper character development for Master Chief.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly that. And look, Jesse Darby in the chat said, well, they weren't going to follow the law, so what are you going to expect? Mate, I expect a respectful writer to respect the law of the exactly like Fod said. If you're not gonna produce a Halo show based on the lore of Halo, then call it something else. Because it's not Halo.
Call it the Ring. Call it the Ring.
Yeah.
And then just go with it. And Charlie Hustle's right. I do hate the kids.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. It was Short Round. That was his name.
Yeah, I said Short Round. He's also in the Goonies.
Love that dude. Love that dude. Moving on. Pretty exciting news for anyone who is a Witcher fan. Witcher 4 has been announced, and they have announced that it will be being developed in UE5. Which is also cool because of all the issues that they've had with Cyberpunk. You would imagine that they do want to streamline the development process for Witcher 4. I'm pretty excited about Witcher 4. Look, to be honest, I did not complete Witcher 3. It was massive, but I loved it. But I obviously, family man, I've got other things that I've got to do. And something else came out and took me away from Witcher, but it is one of my top all-time games. Umbra, you'd be pretty excited about Witcher 4 coming out?
I'm extremely excited, and please go back and finish that game.
Yeah,
I think The Witcher 3 and Red Dead Redemption 2, I always say this often, I think they're the games of the generation of last year.
My man.
Personally. Yeah, see, Fonz knows.
Yep, I agree with those two.
Absolutely. 100%. Two of the top games, in my opinion, of all time, but definitely of the 8th gen. And I think, for one, I'm very excited. I know that they're starting over as far as, not starting over, let me say that over. I know that they're moving on to a new protagonist, What I hope that they do is they allow us to actually create our Witcher, because that I think gives it the game so much more room.
I hope so
live.
too,
I don't
Umbra.
think they will. I don't.
I
think
hope
Yeah.
so too.
And
It's
it's
not
clearly a
what
different
CD
school.
Projekt Red used. Like, well, they did
Cyberpunk.
that with Cyberpunk, and it didn't fall well, did it? So, but I hope they do, mate. I think that would be great if you could design your own character. I hope they go
Yeah.
that route.
Yeah, there's a
Yep,
couple
absolutely.
of things. So The Witcher, the only thing we got was a splash screen with the cat medallion, which they confirmed was a Lynx. Okay.
Definitely a Lynx. Yeah.
So and it says a new saga begins. So we know that this is probably not going to be Geralt or Geralt. This. Some people are speculating it could be Ciri, since Ciri wears a cat medallion. It could be a story through her, about her.
be.
But
Yeah, I've heard that. I disagree.
I think it's going to be something completely different.
And I
think this
don't
is gonna
actually
be
want it
something
to be a
new.
story about Ciri. Her story is integral to Geralt's story.
I agree
They're
with that
wrapped up
too.
in each other, and they finished it just perfectly. I hope it's a
Yeah,
it's a
Yeah,
I want it to
basically
be
a
someone
new
else
story.
altogether.
And I think that's why those words, a new saga begins, are written
Yes.
there, because this is something fresh. You're going to have a totally new Witcher, and I'm all for it, because The Witcher 3, honestly, one of the best games I've ever played, man. Like that is
question.
one of the best games of last generation, if not the best. And you know how much I love Red Dead Redemption 2, but when you combine the DLCs of The Witcher 3 and The Witcher 3 itself, every bit of that game, just the stories and stuff, was just incredible. The mission structure, everything about it, spot on, just perfect, spot on, just beautiful game. I can't wait.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
And
well,
that-
The Witcher
and that-
3 is probably my favorite game of all time. So, I mean, talking about that, what do you want to see out of The Witcher 4, Umbra? I personally want to see a brand new story. I don't want them to focus on Geralt. I don't want them to focus on Ciri or the conjunction of spheres. Look, I don't mind if they maybe make the show about the original conjunction of spheres. That will be difficult, because that means
you know
humans
what?
won't have been in the world, and that means magic will be coming into the world, and chaos will be coming into the world for the first time. But what part of the Witcher universe do you want it to be set in, Umbra?
Well, I want them to go forward. I don't want them to go backward. I don't want a prequel. I would prefer them to go forward. And I say that because there's much more they can expand on with the magic and combat in that aspect. I mean, they could still do it if they go back, but just thematically, it seems like it would make more sense to go forward with that. Also,
but don't you think after The Witcher 3 that a lot of the problems have been solved? Like, the basically witches are almost an extinct fucking species at the end of
it depends on how they do it.
Witcher 3. And the
depends on how they do
conjunction
it,
of
though.
spheres has been solved. I think they have to go backwards. I think we need to see, especially if it's going to be about witches. Now, there has been a little bit of speculation that it's not going to be about witches, and they might go a completely different route. I hope they don't do that. But maybe I'd like to see the very first Witcher school being built.
I mean, that would be cool too. I wouldn't be against seeing that, but at the same time, I think there's anything is possible with writing. They can definitely write it going forward. What's up, Wandering Dutch? They can definitely write it going forward. So I don't see any reason why they need to go backwards. But I mean, I would be fine with it either way, as long as it's a great game. Let's be clear. If it's a great game, I think none of us will complain, right? I just say going forward because I think they can have Geralt in a position of as a mentor, much like what's his name? It's right at the tip of my tongue. Right as the elder Witcher was
The
for him.
Vesemir?
Vesemir, thank you.
I get what you're saying.
So they could have him being that leading that new school going forward too, or they could have
But isn't
Ciri.
that what he did with Ciri? I mean, that's kind of
Yep.
what we already seen.
True.
And but if you go back, like I'm saying, like or to the origin of the Witchers or whatever, I said that's an interesting thing because it doesn't follow source material 1-to-1 the games. Like there is no cat medallion, there is no House of Cat or whatever in the Witchers, in the books or anything. But since this is the game and it doesn't follow that lore 1-to-1, they could do something like that and say this was one of the first Witchers. This house here, the Lynx. And they could do something with that. And maybe Ciri that's why she still has a House of a Cat thing. Maybe she's one of the only ones left of that, house or whatever.
Or you know what they could do too, Fonz? They could also make it like the House of Lynx. Or is it like they can make it like the House of Lynx was like this forbidden school that did something crazy or something. There's so many ways they can go with it. And I think they're going to have, I think it's going to be a great
different
game.
mechanics,
It'd be very difficult to have a Witcher without Geralt. But, what do you think, Jack? Where do you want to see the Witcher go? And do you like the fact that they're switching from from Red Engine to Unreal Engine 5? And do you think that will impede development, them learning a brand new engine to work on?
As far as, impeding development, I'm not really in a place to be able to comment on that insofar as we've not really been able to gauge any games, on that engine and compare them in terms of the developmental progress, the obstacles and hurdles they've had to clear in order, to reach shelves or digital stores, things like that. When it comes to The Witcher, and I'm really glad that I'm very far from all of you, at least in terms of distance, because you're going to reach for your pitchforks and torches. I have never played a Witcher game for more than 2.5 hours. I have nothing. Hang on. Allow me. That's what I'm saying. Before you call the lynch mob, allow me to elaborate. I have nothing against it at all. I think it's great. I'm deliberately waiting for the next gen release of The Witcher 3 because I know I played it for like 2 hours, and the only thing that happened, because it is my best friend's favorite game, was he had me kill 6 cows in the first little town, and then some unholy monstrosity emerged and just molested me. And I have not played it since.
At this point, you might as well wait for that next gen patch. Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to do. You're all here talking about spheres and cats, and I have no idea what it's all Mandarin to me. So but I love to hear the passion you guys have about it. It's only making me more excited to get into it. And I think it's going to be a great experience.
I'll give you some small advice about the game, because I kind of was in your shoes when I first started The Witcher when it came out.
I'm an albino swordsman, I think, right?
I played for a few hours and I couldn't get into it. There was just something about the combat and stuff I did not like. Okay, the combat isn't the best.
Layout in the corner. No, that's what it is.
Yeah, it isn't the best. But the one thing I will say though, after I talked to Dealer for a while, he kept trying to get me to go back, and I tried again, and I played about 6 hours, and I couldn't get into it. And then it just hit me one day. I started it up. I tried to play from that 6 hour mark. I was going. In the combat, I just sort of started to understand it. And what you got to do is you got to understand the oils you put on your blade and the different things you use at your disposal to certain creatures you fight. And then it gets easy. The light switch came on, and I go, oh, okay.
You also unlock some of those really cool dancing blade maneuvers in your, and when you do that, you can put some really cool combos together, and everything starts to gel. But it does take a while.
That is one thing about The Witcher that was really that I really loved is the prepping for combat. So knowing what you ran into, what killed you, and what you have to go back and take on, and then you've got to kind of think and prep for your combat, so you know what oils you're putting on, what signs you're going to be using. It's very much like Elden Ring. Like you fought a boss, you kind of you lost, and you're going to change your tactics. You're going to come back in and have another crack at them with a different tactic. You can't just keep banging your head against the wall. And I love that about The Witcher. It's not just button mashing. It's very intelligent combat. But Dreadpool hasn't had a chance to talk about The Witcher. And are you excited to see The Witcher 4 coming on UE5?
Yes. I just think with UE5, we're going to have more, let's say, of a demographic that are learning coding. And that's where it's going to be headed to versus where they used to be. So it's already hard enough to find devs as it is. So with a new engine that's more capable versus trying to build it from the ground up, we saw what happened with Cyberpunk. It was supposed to be a lot more than it is.
Mm-hmm. And you make a good point also, because a lot of CD Projekt Red has left the building and started their own studios. So that could be part of the decision to move to UE5. I guess when you
Unreal Engine 5 is going to become the standard
Yeah, no
I
question.
think
with
that
open
is
world
something
games.
that everybody is, the developers are moving towards Unreal Engine
It's
5.
an
And that's because
inevitable.
what I'm
And-
hearing about Unreal Engine 5 is that it's once you get it and once you learn it, it's a lot faster and easier to use.
Yeah, and
I
more
think that
streamlined
is
to
gonna be
actually
the
make a
beneficial
game.
thing.
And it's an easy transition from 4 to 5. So if you know 4, you could just go ahead
That's
and
the
get
problem,
into
Dread. They
5.
don't know 4. You know, they worked on
Right.
Red Engine, and
Yeah.
actually, like, Witcher was a beautiful game. Yes, it dropped frames, especially in certain locations. I think on the PlayStation, there was one specific area where it dropped 8 frames. But the next-gen patch has been really good. I mean, that game still stands up today, even though it was made ages ago.
Oh, those
Looks-
missions. Oh,
yeah,
man.
looks-
The stories, the
looks
narratives
beautiful.
are amazing. In that game.
Spectacular.
So I
Holy
think it's surprising that they're moving on from their own proprietary engine to Unreal 5. Like that is surprising to me.
It is
Look,
surprising,
I hope,
but I expect
I
great
hope
things
that they
from
can
it.
pull it off.
I think they will.
I just want a
think
great game.
I think they know they have to bounce back after after Cyberpunk. So I'm
Right.
pretty sure they will.
There's a cautionary tale that I think that they invariably have
Mhm.
taken notice of. I think ultimately, whatever you think of Cyberpunk, this is still a studio that at the very least is innovative, it's talented. I can only comment on The Witcher because I've really never played it much, but I know it's extraordinarily popular. I know there's this vast universe and sort of tide of lore behind it. And I'm just waiting for that next-gen released version so I can jump into it and experience it at the highest quality on Xbox Series S, mind you.
Yeah. Well, they
I was
know.
gonna say,
They obviously
mate,
know.
if you put any time away for playing Elden Ring, you need to put that same amount of time to play The Witcher. The game is enormous,
Agreed.
and don't forget about the DLC. The DLCs are amazing, and they are a fully contained game within themselves. They go for 40, 50, 60 hours just on their own.
I would say
by the
this
way,
much,
they add a
the
combat to it too.
the DLCs are better than the main story.
That's what my friends tells me.
Yeah.
I have to play,
and the main
Blood
story
and
is
Wine.
great.
Fleshly Blood and Wine.
Great.
Yep.
It's great. But Blood and Wine
Heart of
and the
Stone
other
was
one,
okay.
Heart of Stone
Blood
was
and Wine
awesome
is
too. No,
amazing.
I love Heart of Stone too. I think those are amazing. They beat out the main campaign in the original game for sure. In my,
you know what, they
beat it.
challenged them. For me, I will say this: they added so much. This is what I will say for sure: the side missions are better than main missions in other games. The DLC is the standard for what story DLC should be in any game.
Bro, all of it.
It's amazing. You're just doing what you think is a side mission, and all of a sudden it'll just go into this mammoth cut scene, and that side mission will become a 4-hour prospect, and it's just another mission on your list. Yeah, amazing, amazingly well done.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
Still concerning with the amount of goodwill they burnt up with Cyberpunk. I mean, CD Projekt Red was the darling of the industry. They could do no wrong, and they were trusted.
Well, let's be honest.
By everyone.
With Cyberpunk, their main issue was the lies. They lied about several key things, and it's honestly why I didn't cover. Like, I covered Cyberpunk so much, and everybody expected me to do the review on it and do all this stuff, and I stopped cold turkey because of those lies. I said, you know what? I'm not going to promote a game that did this, even though I loved Cyberpunk 2077. I played it
I
on
think
the
it's
Series
underrated.
X. I thought it was a great game, but it left a lot to be desired in key areas where they lied to us. They said that they were going to, like, basically revolutionize the open world gaming system. Like, they talked about a lot of verticality and stuff, and it just wasn't there. Not on the spectrum that, say, Elden Ring is on. You know, they failed in a lot of key areas. Their narrative was fantastic, solid. CD Projekt Red narrative all over that game. A lot of the side missions were incredible, but again, the gameplay and how it didn't work on last-gen consoles, and they said it worked great. There were just lies. And
that was their
and
main
the review process,
to be a next
the way that
title.
the way that they released the reviews and only allowed PC to do the reviews. There was a lot. There was a lot of goodwill burnt up with. So I hope, and a lot of developers left because of the crunch that was going on behind the scenes to get that game out, and they've lost a lot of developers. We know that. So it'd be very interesting to see what they put out, when they put it out, and what the quality is like. And will they learn from their mistakes? because I mean, it could be another EA where they just do it again and again.
Oh, I
and
say
again.
they did. Yeah, I think.
Well, Cyberpunk was built on last gen hardware. You think about how long ago they started building all that. That was before we even knew what this gen is at, right?
Yeah, 2013. I think they started developing that game.
Right. So they knew what those specs are before the Pro and the X. So they had that to work off of, and they still failed at allowing those games. Right. They still failed at that. Now, here's the good part, is we're already on this gen. Witcher 4 is already going to be spec'd for this gen. I don't see them going backwards to last gen unless they do like the cloud stuff. But either way, it's going to be all based and played on this gen, and therefore, same thing with PC. PC is going to have no issues at all ever.
And maybe that's their reasoning for changing to Unreal Engine 5. Maybe that's one of the big reasons. Maybe the Red Engine just sucks. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I think they learned that during the Cyberpunk process, but didn't
maybe
they?
Maybe they're looking at it now as they're working on the PS5 and Series X, and the new platforms. Maybe that using that Red Engine and trying to upgrade Cyberpunk 2077, they're noticing, hey, maybe our engine's not that good. Maybe
it's not optimized for these, for multi-console, PC setup as well as they thought they were.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, because it's a lot of development time to bring your engine up to spec for new gens. I mean, look at you've got the Creation engine. They spent 2 years on that. The Halo at Slipspace engine, and that was apparently an absolute nightmare to bring that up to spec. So you can understand that. We've got to move on to our next topics. It's something that I didn't actually add. It came in late. But the debacle, everyone knows about the debacle with Gran Turismo 7, and it seems that PlayStation is actually listening, which is crazy to me. They usually just sit in the background and stay silent. But
I don't think they had a choice this time.
No, even the mainstream media has turned on PlayStation, it seems, and started calling out their, for want of a better word, bullshit.
About time.
And it is absolutely about time. I don't have the article in front of me, but basically they have they very basically said they're going to roll back all of the currency changes and work on the balance. And I think this is an absolutely great thing. I would like to see more of this from PlayStation. Has anyone got a chance to play GT7? I will not pick it up. No, I won't buy a $70 game and then pay for microtransactions.
I refuse any $70 game.
Yeah, I refuse any $70 game, but especially one that is egregious as this is with microtransactions. And people can say what they want and say, none of us that have not bought the game should be talking about this game. Bull crap. Like if a game is $70 and it's got all these microtransactions and it's sort of pushing you or enticing you to buy those microtransactions at a $70 price point, I'm sorry. I'm okay to talk about it because that is something that is against the consumers, and I will always talk about a game that does this sort of thing. It's shady business practices. It's wrong. First of all, let's talk about this. $60 it is the norm for games.
That's the industry
I know there's
standard.
this trend. Yeah. The trend is now going up $10, and it's inevitable. I will admit. It's inevitable this is going to happen, and it sucks. And it's all because of
PlayStation
developers it's all because of developers like what was it? Who started it though? I think it was Take-Two.
It was Take-Two.
Because I just had
their basketball game, I think.
And then PlayStation. But the problem is when PlayStation started to do it,
they're the industry leader.
Okay.
Yep. Everybody follows
the industry leader.
Exactly right. Yeah,
and that's not cool. But whatever. But
it's amazing that Xbox and Ubisoft have been able to hold out for so long. And I got to give them kudos to that.
Well, here's an interesting thing I'm going to throw in here, and jumping ahead to the GDC chat that Phil and Sarah Bond had. I don't know if you guys were paying attention, but she actually mentioned the pricing of games. And she said $70. This is Sarah Bond, Xbox, and she was reading off a teleprompt. Me and Pete were talking about this earlier, which I didn't appreciate it. Pete didn't appreciate it either because Phil does it out of passion. But Sarah Bond was very obviously reading off a teleprompter, And so you've got to imagine that $70 price tag was written on the teleprompter. I mean, is Xbox? I mean, inevitably, like you say, Fonz, probably inevitably,
it's
Xbox is going to go $70, man. This is.
I mean, it's the reason why I questioned Aaron Greenberg on RDX at one time. I questioned him on that. Of course, he couldn't really say anything because he's just the marketing guy, and you can't say certain things. But at the end of the day, it's like this: if we have been at the $60 price point for so many years, well over a decade. We've been here at this price point. A lot of the mitigating factors have been like DLCs, microtransactions, season passes, collector's editions, digital gaming, and the sheer numbers of gamers, period. These have been mitigating factors. These things are what has caused us to be able to stay at that $60 price point, to sustain that. These companies are making a lot of money based on all those factors I just brought up.
Record profits.
Now, you're going to tell me that you're going to push that game to $70. It better not have a freaking microtransaction in it.
Not one.
Because these were the mitigating factors against those price hikes. So why on earth would I spend $70 on a racing game riddled with microtransactions? Sorry,
well,
I'm not going to do it.
I think we're forgetting. Well, and I agree with everything you've all said. I think we're forgetting, though, and I don't want to be, electronically partisan with it, but I think we're forgetting that there is, and we're no strangers to it, a very large part of the gaming community that sort of openly celebrates having to pay, prices that, we would consider semi-extortionate for their games. It's a point of pride. I know the way we talk about it, it seems like a sort of financial masochism. We don't understand it. But that, they celebrate it, and that does seem to be sort of the invariable direction that we're all taking. I think the effects of that are going to be very interesting because at no point in time in the history of this industry, it's very interesting, has sort of the price point entrance barrier, right, been so high, right? I mean, it's incomparable. It's going up, and it's I
mean, and when you're in Australia, you're talking $120 for a game, which is out of control, ridiculous, right?
Right. Well, with all these companies, with both Microsoft and PlayStation, their number one big thing that most of their sales or most of their numbers come from microtransactions.
Yeah.
That is what makes them most of their money, okay?
Yeah. But they're fair.
Okay,
but they're fair microtransactions.
No,
but this is the thing with the $70 price tag.
Here's the problem.
It needs to be fair.
If you look at both sides, if you look at both companies, the ones that are making the most money on those transactions are free-to-play games.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're free-to-play games. I'm understandable. I'm understanding with. I understand that for a free-to-play game, you need to make your money somehow, and boy, are they making that money. So my thing is, why couldn't GT7 be a free-to-play game?
Yeah,
it is a live service game.
It's on a
live service.
And look, I'll say this. I want to say this: is the economy within GT7 is geared in such a way that it is completely unfair to the consumer. It almost forces microtransactions. Now, that's not even understandable in a free-to-play game. In a $70 game, it's fucking egregious. I hate to swear.
Yeah, and not only do they make it hard for you to earn those expensive cars that are $100+ in the game, a lot of them are around $40. But let's be real. What they do to people is they play on FOMO. They also put up cars for a short time and say, hey, you could buy this now. It's going away, though. We don't know if it'll be back. And so it entices people to buy it.
Creates a demand, an artificial demand. But at the same time, it's just sort of like it's almost like a sword of Damocles hanging over one's head. If you think and I'd be very interested in your takes, gentlemen. As high a price point as it is to enjoy this hobby that we so do, and that we talk about with such great passion, we have great memories, around. When you look at things like that, do you see that influencing sort of people happily moving to a subscription service-based model? Do you think?
Oh, definitely.
When you look at a game being, because I do too. Because when I see absolutely. Because when I see this, I think, thank God I have Game Pass. Holy shit. You know what I mean?
That's why I look at the situation when you guys brought up, Xbox is talking about $70 games.
It's
care.
Game Pass. I don't care either.
For me, because I've got Game Pass, right?
Yeah.
But what
I
I did
still
tell
haven't bought
Aaron
Halo
Greenberg
Infinite
on
yet.
RDX was, Aaron,
Yeah.
not everybody has Game Pass. Not everybody wants Game Pass. So if you do go to that pricing model at $70, you're going to piss off a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, it'll incentivize subscription. I mean, I think ultimately, I think when guys like us, like I've bought 4 games in the last month, 2 months between Horizon and Tiny Tina, right? I think it's definitely going to incentivize, Game Pass subscriptions or any other subscription.
That's what they want, isn't it?
And
Jeff?
I think
Really?
so. Yeah, that's why I'm wondering. It's almost because people now. I mean, I went to buy Horizon Forbidden West and Ghostwire Tokyo, and I'm looking at Ghostwire Tokyo, and I'm looking at it on the PS app, and I'm like, it says Bethesda. Why am I paying? It doesn't make sense, And so and I've become a little Game Pass. Well, exactly. I think though, do you ultimately see it? Because I think if anyone that owns Game Pass, it's immaterial whether the game's $1 or $100, right? It doesn't matter to us. It's a non-issue. It's completely irrelevant.
That's why I want Spartacus to be day and date.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I do
I was
too.
going to say Spartacus would be the determining factor in whether or not that.
I think they need to build their library.
Yeah.
Right. It's not as you're
To
looking
me,
at
they
extra.
don't even
need
need to
to
build
build
a
a library
library.
before they-
Just do day and date, and I'm good with it. Because I'm such a Sony whore when it comes to their exclusives. Excuse me, but I am, and I would take day and date in a heartbeat and spend that $16 a month or whatever if they had day and date.
I don't think
would
we'll
too.
see day and date. I don't think we'll see day and date early in the piece, early in Spartacus's lifespan. But for Spartacus to compete, it has to go day and date at some point.
I agree.
When we get, I'm sure you're going to talk about Spartacus, right? Because there's a lot I could say on that. I think that with Spartacus, I think there will be some games that go day and date right away. And I think these are not the big AAA single player games. These are going to be all those gas games they're working on.
Yeah.
These live service games, I think, will be in there. Haven's game will be in there. That's what I think.
But so you see that sort of being like an experimental period almost?
Yeah, I think they're going to do that.
Definitely.
And plus, because they're gas games. They can afford to do that.
Right,
These
yeah.
games can make a lot of money with those microtransactions.
Well, they did say they wanted to pull out 16 games as a service titles in the next few years with Bungie. And
Why
with
do you
Haven.
think you haven't heard anything from Naughty Dog's factions lately? They're waiting for
Yeah, we
Spartacus.
have. We heard that it's not happening within the lifetime of The Last of Us Part 2.
Really?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
They did say, yeah. So it's not launching inside of. We talked about that, I think, last week. It's not launching inside of The Last of Us itself as a game.
No,
so
it's not.
Yeah,
but
so it
I
made
think
it
that it's going to launch in Spartacus.
Yeah,
Factions
that's
would
exactly
be.
what we were saying. Yeah, it's very suspect, man. It's like, oh, hello.
Well, it's a big title with a big following. If you want to advertise what you can objectively see, because Spartacus, I don't think anybody thinks will be a superior service in terms of what's offered to Game Pass, right?
You know
and
what?
I think nobody. I think a lot of people are saying it's not trying to be. I also think that narrative is horseshit. But I think that putting something like factions into it, I 100% agree. You got a title, The Last of Us Part 2, that's synonymous with Sony, it's synonymous with PlayStation, it's synonymous with awards and success, whatever you feel about it.
To say
I
that
think that's a
rental
great
game-
way to bring them in.
To say that a digital rental gaming service is not trying to compete with another is just asinine.
Yeah,
it's a
it
lie
is.
at this
It is.
point.
Yeah.
It is trying
Yeah.
to compete with Game Pass. I don't care what they say. It
Yeah,
definitely
definitely.
is.
Who's saying
Game
that?
Pass
It
pushed
will.
them into it, and Game Pass pushed
you know
them
who's
into it
saying
as
that.
well.
A lot of people say that.
Is someone
He's
actually?
saying that.
Is someone stupid
Ryan
enough to
said
actually say that? Jesus.
I
They are.
Yeah.
For those of us that occasionally, walk into the stables from time to time, it's
Oh,
pretty
wow.
popular.
Yeah, Dreadpool. I'll go back quickly to GT7. Have you had a chance to play that? I'm not sure if you own a. Do you own a PS5 or?
I've actually had the pleasure to not play Gran Turismo 7.
Isn't it Grand Theft 7
I
funds?
call it
Grand
Grand
Theft.
Transaction. Yeah,
Grand
I didn't
Transaction.
play
I
it.
love it.
That's what I
love
call it.
Grand Transaction.
I love it. It's fantastic. Look, there is something that I wanted to move on to and I wanted to talk about. Bit of a touchy subject, but I'm going to give my hot take on it, and it may not be the most popular hot take. Moon Studios' reportedly toxic work environment, and that's why Microsoft chose not to publish their next game. Now, look, there's a 40-minute article that Jeff Grubb and VegBeat released. It's a very long article. I did get a chance to read the entire article. there's some things going on over there that are wrong, that are terrible. But what I wanted to ask, the question of the guests in the panel here, and this is from someone whose background is underground mining. So I'm an underground miner. That's a very tough environment. And I'm a former chef. That's also a very tough environment. And I think I'm feeding back into your mic, Dreadpool. Also a very tough environment. And I was brought up in a way in those environments that is very light on the praise and extremely heavy on the criticism. And mistakes, especially in my current profession, which is underground mining and explosives, mistakes are not accepted. And they're not accepted by me, and they're not accepted by the people that you work with, because one little mistake can get you killed. Now, game development is a totally different thing, and I understand that. However, what I want to know is, do we think that Moon Studios can produce greatness without the harshness?
I believe so. Why not? I mean, I think that will be an excuse for anybody to say, well, if I'm not mean to them, how can we be up to production? I think, of course, they can. I think these guys just have maturity issues from what I read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead.
No, you go, Fonz. Go for it, mate.
I was going to say, anytime HR gets involved, their attitudes change real quick. When their jobs are on the line, that's when it stops. I mean, I come from an environment where I work at a steel mill, and it's very toxic. And there was a time where I've been there 20 years now, but when I started there 20 years ago, it was at a time during, like, you could say a lot and you can get away with a lot. Mm-hmm. And nowadays you just can't. And people still try, a lot of the old timers still try to push that. And it doesn't work. As soon as somebody goes to HR,
yeah, well, that's the issue. That's the issue that these guys are having, because these are the founders. So it's the two founders within their chat. They don't like to do video chat. They do all work remotely. It's a completely remote studio. They produced an amazing game, one of the best games of the generation. Ori's like in my top 10.
It's a one game of the year.
Absolutely. Yeah. I found it like ridiculous that it didn't win any awards in the Game Awards. It's just unbelievable.
I agree.
That game is absolutely amazing, and they did produce something amazing, and they did it twice. And they did it with completely new staff the second time, because all the staff that were there for the first one left because of the toxic environment. And I agree with you, Umbra, that they do sound really immature. But then I think there's also something to be said for being hard. And I agree with you, Fonz, as well. There's things that you can't do and can't say. But are we losing a little bit of our greatness? Is the millennials? I was
going to say that. There is a sensitivity going on in the world, where I think some people are overly sensitive.
Amen.
Yes. And you cannot say certain things without offending someone.
Everything's offensive to everyone. Yeah. Everyone wants to play the victim. I mean,
and I hate it.
I do too.
I freaking hate it, because we have comedians in this world that can't say things anymore, that are just jokes.
That's true.
And to me, I just, like, if you're gonna come at a comedian now, I'm like, what is wrong with society? And yes, this is all about the workplace environment, and you should be doing your job, and you should be doing it well. But who's to say they don't do it well within this type of environment, and everybody gets along, except maybe little Timmy over there who is a recluse and doesn't like people anyway, and
water cooler crying.
And I'm not saying this is what's happening at Moon Studios. I'm not trying to dilute what they have to say and make it seem like it's nothing, because I don't even know the stories that's gone on there. I didn't look into it, but I do definitely think that with some people there is like a sensitivity issue.
Yeah, well,
they suggest that it was death by 1,000 cuts, so it wasn't one big issue or anything like that. But that suggests to me that these people are just being a little bit soft. Like, there's no lawsuits or anything like that. But so like, someone will say something on one day and they won't like it, and it'll. There's no. I think to produce excellence in sport, in any endeavor, you need to be pushed a little bit. Yes, at the end of the day, some praise is welcome, but it's not absolutely necessary. And the product that they put out suggests to me that the work environment within Moon Studios works, because I don't think you can produce that quality if they don't have an environment that works.
Yeah, but see, that environment doesn't entail people cursing you out in front of other people and all that type of shit. Like, that's just an excuse right
That's
there.
not.
Like,
But see,
I don't need to be demeaned.
That's not exactly what
matter of
happened
fact-
with them, though.
No,
Well,
yeah,
no,
exactly.
a lot of them said absolutely that's what happened. It was a girl. It was a lady.
But
I don't
I'm
think
just
girl,
saying
I
that's
think
not all. There was other
not
things.
all,
There was-
but it absolutely happens. What I'm saying, and
well-
it's a lady who was working as I forgot what position, but she was like a director or something, like co-director, I forgot. And she said it crushed her spirit altogether and made her want to get out of gaming. So it's not something, I don't think they were just saying mean things. It was a matter of how they demeaned people there too.
Well, I think everything is obviously. I think we all understand everything is unsubstantiated. What I do think is interesting is, obviously, Risk It here talking about being in underground mining. Fonz works in a steel mill. I'm in the military. So I think the three of us, I think with Risk It and Fonz and myself in particular, I don't know what the rest of you gentlemen do, but I definitely sympathize with them, because there are things. I think there needs to be a degree of. I think certainly what we would call, there needs to be a tolerable degree of what we would call ball busting. I mean, and I think the idea that you can run an entire, development company on the basis of, of a 10-line, bullet point HR statement, setup, I think that's ridiculous. I think the fact, and more to that, whether it's, and I'll go so far as to say, whether it's Activision, whether it's Moon, whether it's, there's pervasive talks of similar things occurring in Ubisoft. Obviously, a group of that size.
I think that's a different thing altogether when you're talking about sexual harassment and some.
Yeah,
some
sexual
things.
That's I don't condone that at all.
That's not happening. That's not happening at
It's
Moon.
not happening, but it's part of
Right.
it, though. Let's
What I'm saying is
be
there
real
is a
about it. It's
narrative
part of
Yeah.
it.
guilt.
Dread,
There is
so
a
Dread,
narrative of guilt that gets pushed
Mhm.
unnecessarily
Yeah.
without any
But
proof.
even though I've been sexually harassed at work, just saying, but I just laugh it off. But some people
Right.
wouldn't.
yeah.
Most men would.
Dread,
Yep.
Dread, you were gonna say?
Yeah, it's all part of it. The thing is, everybody can be sensitive to something or another, right? Some jokes can be made about, let's say, I make jokes about myself all the time, right? And some people take offense to it. I'm like, why are you taking offense to it? It's about me. It's not about you. You're not even my ethnicity, right? So why are you taking offense to my ethnicity when I'm making fun of myself, right? So when you have sensitivity like that, it does pick up a little bit more and push a different narrative. But at the same time, these are supposed to be leaders, okay? So when you're a leader, you're supposed to lead your group. You're not a general. You're not a commander that's a tyrant that's telling you your soldiers to go into battle. You're a leader for a game. And this applies to everything. It doesn't apply just to gamers or developers. It applies everywhere. As a leader, you got to show the way to do things, right? And the proper way to do things is with respect. And if you can't motivate somebody a certain way, right, what do coaches do? They find different ways to motivate their players, right? Some players need to be yelled at. Okay, so
that's
sometimes
true.
somebody gets offended because they're being yelled at, but they don't realize it's something that needs to happen.
That's
because
bang on.
the other
Dread, let me ask you
motivations
though,
didn't
Dread.
work.
What do you
sorry?
mean though? If you made fun of your own ethnicity, what would you mean by that? Could you give me an example?
Because I'm Greek, right? So everybody makes
Windex.
goat jokes. So the whole goat jokes or the back door.
Yeah, well, I think what you're referring to is that one of the founders is Jewish, and one of the other founders is Austrian, which is semi-German. And they were making inappropriate jokes, and I think you're absolutely on the ball there. And that's something that I learned as a leader, because in my chefing career I was an executive, and I found that yelling. I definitely yelled at some people, absolutely, but there are other people that needed motivation in other ways, and you need to learn your people. And motivate them in those different ways. And look, some people respond to being yelled at in a positive way, and some people respond to being yelled at in a way that makes them meeker and milder and not do their job properly and become more nervous. So you need to seek out the different approaches to each people. I totally agree with that. However, as a leader, making inappropriate jokes about race, even if it's just your race, and they are just jokes, that's not something that you do in a professional chat.
Correct.
So
I agree.
I'm completely against
Correct.
that. But I also think that that in an unfortunate circumstances, the harshness of that studio has really produced something great, and I'm concerned about what they're doing next, because there was some interesting talk about that. Well, we'll move on from the subject to speaking about a lot of development this week. There's a rumor that Fable is one of the developers is coming out saying that Fable's struggling to produce. Playground struggling to produce Fable due to their lack of experience with RPGs. Look, but this is nothing to worry about. It's true. They haven't done an
Nothing
RPG.
to see here. Nothing to see here.
Yeah, they haven't done an RPG before.
It's blown way out of proportion.
They're gonna try to figure it out. It's gonna take a bit more extra time. Like, it's not a racing game. They're gonna be spitballing ideas. They're gonna be trying new things. I think this is a non-event. Absolutely, as Fonzarelli was just saying. Dreadpool, did you catch the story? Are you concerned? I'm not concerned.
I'm sorry. What story? I was typing.
Fable. So Playground
Oh,
Games.
the Fable. Yeah, I'm not concerned. I'm sorry. I'm not concerned. It is what it is. It's a new studio when it comes to not new studio, but you know what I'm saying. A new format of storytelling for them. So, something new that they haven't done. So for them to not have anybody, I mean, they've been advertising people for this position for years, even before we knew that it was going to be for Fable. So I'm not concerned. It's let them take however long they need to take. I mean, I want Fable yesterday, but I'd rather let them find the right people when the timing's right, release the game.
Yeah, look,
I want Fable yesterday as well.
Yeah.
I think what Sony do really, really well is they get other studios to jump in and help whatever studio with whatever game they're making, and that's why a lot of their games are similar, but they always excel. And I think Microsoft with Bethesda now, in their fold, I think that they could really, really help Fable. A team like Obsidian or In Exile or Bethesda themselves that are more familiar with building these RPGs. I think maybe sending a team of them over there to maybe look over them, go over, where they're having difficulties, where they're struggling. Playgrounds have proven themselves time and time again when making Forza Horizon, but in saying that, it's a genre that they've become very familiar with over a long period of time. And whenever you're transitioning over to a new genre, something you haven't done before, it is going to take time. And I hope Microsoft just give them that time, give them that encouragement, give them whatever they need to make Fable great, because I think that's what we want at the end of the day.
Let me ask you guys something. When did they announce that Fable was being worked on by Playground? When did they start work on this?
Oh, I think it's
Apparently
been so. The trailer came out a year ago, right?
It's been 4 years. It's been 4 years, but I think they announced it in, was it 18?
Yeah, it was either 17 or 18. I'm not sure which one.
Yeah, we got the trailer about a year ago, though, I think.
That's true.
Yeah, but that was just like
But they've been working on it for a while. Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
So if they've been working on it for about 4 years, I would say it could be a little concerning that a developer is just now speaking and saying, hey, it's taking a lot longer. But at the same time, I'm not saying, okay, run out and, it's all doom and gloom there at Playground, because, look, they make a phenomenal racer. All right. But this is such a departure from that you have to understand that it's going to take time. I mean, look at a company like Guerrilla Games. They took, they went from first-person shooters to
Killzone.
Horizon Zero Dawn. They made Horizon Zero Dawn, and that took them 7 years to make. And that is not as much of a departure going from a first-person shooter to a third-person game as it is going from a racer to a third-person RPG. So this is much deeper of a move and a bigger one. So I would expect this game to take at least 7-8 years to make for them. So right now, I'm not saying that it's doom and gloom for this game at all right now.
Oh, just to clarify, I looked it up. It was announced formally in 2020.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
Me
I'm
either.
not worried at this point.
It
Yeah, I
would be
think that's what Jack was
ridiculous
talking about when they
not to
formally
expect a
announced it.
learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be ridiculous not to expect a learning curve. I mean, it would be insane. I think
Yeah.
when you're moving from sort of racing sims and arcade racing and things like that to an open world, interconnected, very expansive,
RPG,
narrative-driven RPG, yeah, of course there's going to
That's
be a
so
learning curve.
different. That is,
Yeah.
that's apples
The
to
idea that
oranges
you
right
could
there.
hold, right, and the idea that you could hold it to some arbitrary standard when we didn't even get a release window. I would almost understand it if the release window was a year from now, 10 months from now. I'd be like, oh, that's not real good for us to be hearing it at this sort of critical junction in that developmental cycle. But we don't even have a window. To me, it's one step above hearsay.
In my opinion, this is nothing like, say, Perfect Dark or The Initiative.
Exactly. The
That's
initiative.
true.
I have issues with what's going on over there personally. Like, my assumptions about that situation are not so good. But in
Yes,
this,
they haven't lost half their
this is
studio
different.
team.
This is different. This is different. I don't think there's an issue here.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I
What
think
about-
it's boiled down to a whole lot of nothing.
No, this is just a cheap headline. That's all it is.
Yes.
You
Exactly.
know, I
Yep,
think
Scott
it's
Knight.
blown up more so because you had a lot of contention online from a lot of Sony fans. So a lot of them, I had words with them over, the course of the week where they were just trying to rub it in Xbox fans' nose. Oh, it's in development hell. I'm like, there's nothing in the article that says anything about development hell. The guy simply points out, the dev rather, simply points out that it's tougher to make switching from racing games and how they utilize the engine there to open world action RPGs. That's it.
And
that's to be
Eternal,
expected.
bad narrative that
they don't
Sony
read
can stick
articles,
to.
bro. They don't.
No,
read
they don't.
Any
articles.
bad narrative that
Certainly
Sony
read
proponents
I
can
don't
headlines.
stick
think they
to.
read it all.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So
read
I'm
what they
not,
put in
like,
there.
Sorry, Umbra, you go, mate.
yeah, like you said, Funds, I'm not worried about it at all. I agree. I think we will see something this year, personally. I think there's been a few people. I think even Jeff Rubb
it's
even spoke
early.
on it.
I don't think we're going to see anything this year. I think next year.
You don't think so?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look, they've got so much right now around the corner to show this year that I think they could put that off till next year.
The
I'd be
reason I
fine
say
with it
that
next year.
I would too, but well, let me say that. Let me take that back. I actually would want them to show something now, just because I've been anticipating it so long. But I would be fine if they had to do that. But I think they will show something just because it's been so long, and to fight back the narrative that we just discussed. So
I know a lot of people
I don't
don't like talking about it, but the reality is when you're building a brand new game with brand new gameplay mechanics in a genre that you've never done before, that's going to be heavily impacted by COVID, especially if you can't get a group think tank together in the same room. You're all going to be working from home. It's going to be incredibly difficult to work on these gameplay mechanics. Everything you need to work on. If it was just another Horizon, then I'm sure that they would be able to do that from home. But working on a brand new game and all that entails is going to be incredibly difficult to do.
And don't forget, they've just finished the development on Horizon 5 and are still producing content for that game as well.
Yeah.
So I mean that feeds
we are
into
talking about a studio that has, I think, almost 300, if not 300.
yes.
yeah.
Boys.
They're a huge dev team.
Yeah.
And I think it's split too,
Their
right?
mantra
They
is
also
to be the
grew
best
that
game
quite
developing
recently,
studio.
Fonz. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they also grew that amount of that studio out for Fable quite recently. So there is a lot of new blood in that studio or within that studio at the moment.
If you want to talk about new blood, you're going to see a lot of blood in this gameplay. I can't believe I left this in. We got to move on. I'm going to die quite a lot here. We got to move on to the 2 new games dropped this week, which is going to be the last 2 for a while.
Trash and more trash. Yes, I'm kidding.
Yeah, look, I am not. My personal opinion on Ghostwire is that's just not for me. Tiny Tina.
Yeah.
Look, I've never played a Borderlands game. It's just it never looked like my thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not humorless. But I don't know. Some of that slapstick humor in a game has never really appealed to me. Although I know Jack loves it. And Jack, you have played both of these games. Talk to me. Are they any good? Is it worth it? Look, here's the other thing about this. Tiny Tina is released on PlayStation, the $70 machine, for $60. And Xbox guys are playing, if you're getting it on your Xbox Series X, you're paying $70. That's pretty egregious, in my opinion. But
what's ironic?
It's very ironic. What are the games like, though? Is it worth the $70 price tag?
So starting with Ghostwire is the interesting one. If you are into supernatural sort of action, the narrative is good. It's a little disconnected, which we would sort of that's pretty typical of Eastern games, whether it's Final Fantasy, things of that nature. I enjoy Ghostwire Tokyo, but I am an absolute sucker for that kind of genre. The combat is interesting, but it's extremely repetitive. What you get in the first 4 hours is never really gonna modulate itself for change, and yet simultaneously, despite sort of how mundane and repetitive it gets, I feel like Tango, it's always just good enough, not to piss you off. Like they find a place, they find a rhythm, they formulaically put it together, and they arbitrarily decided that they're not going to change it, right? Which you would expect combat should change in an FPS game like that. But it's just comfortable enough to where you're able to overlook that. The biggest downside for me for so far, I'm about 9 hours into it. I've just beaten the first major culty boss. I won't ruin it for you. It really is graphically nowhere near as impressive as I thought it was going to be, even though you've got 4 graphical settings to choose from. I played with a few of them. Again, the difference between the fidelity modes and the performance modes, it's there. It's extremely marginal. You really have to, kind of go through it to even notice it. It's graphically, it's not the most put together title, but it is interesting. It is engaging. If you like horror, as I do, I'm sort of an aficionado. It pulls from a lot of sort of Japanese urban legends more than mythology. Very ghost driven. You've got the yokai, the demons. It pulls from a lot of existing Shinto religious theology. So if you have kind of a rudimentary understanding of that or are interested in that, it will appeal to you. Tokyo's well done. It's actually more expansive. You can go on buildings. There's a degree of verticality to it, which is nice because you can go up, you can see things, the souls you want to collect and all that. I'm enjoying it very much, but I'm not enjoying it nearly as much as Tiny Tina's. I can tell you that. I love that game. I love Borderlands as a franchise. I love the cel-shaded nature of it. I love the zany combat. I love the ability to continue. Borderlands is great because when you think you got your character, there'll be an update or there'll be an addition to it, and all of a sudden you've got so many build options that just completely change how you're able to approach every scenario and play the game. The comedy is infantile and sophomoric, so it appeals to me. It is. It's very slapstick. Like he said, penis. That's the joke. Yeah. Like the joke.
Who knew that infantile humor would appeal to you, Jack?
Right? Yeah, I know.
Never have guessed that, man.
Yeah, as erudite and refined as myself, obviously.
So let me ask you. So I'm looking at the review scores for it. Not that I would ever really take that into full account, but I see it's about 80% for Tiny Tina's on PC, which is 81 for Ghostwire Tokyo on PC. But, fun factor matters, right? And then you have you lean more toward the Borderlands games. But
Tiny Tina is fun. You will play that game and you will just have a good time, and you play it.
You would say that it's worth the 70 to you, right?
So, see, that's what gets a little subjective. I'm one of those guys. I mean, I'm the guy that bought Skyrim like 4 times. I'm that fucking guy.
I bought about 3 times.
I know. I hear you, brother. As a Borderlands fan, and I love Borderlands. Like one things I want to see more than anything. You know where I stand on remasters and all that. I want a whole Borderlands like Handsome Jack collection remastered, all that. If you're a Borderlands fan. Obviously, I think, you were very nervous. This is sort of a radical departure. Like, I was kind of angry at first. I wanted Borderlands 4. And I played, obviously, the sort of spin-off to which this is a sequel. This is a full game. And it's packed with so many fun things. You've helped a satanic metal band try to beat a medieval group of minstrels in a rock concert, You collect teeth for this, like, mutant tooth. There's even, like, There's throwbacks to Arthurian legend. You have to find a gun sword called Excalibur, and it's it's very good. It's very creative. I've been playing it multiplayer too with a friend as well, and oh my god, we're having such a
Look,
blast.
you've almost got me convinced, Jack. But we've got to get to some of these super chats. I'm just kidding. We don't have super chats. We're not big enough.
Yeah, right.
I've got to get to one of these. I got to get to one of these questions, man. Jesse Darby said he knows a lot of people are playing Elderly.
I'm not sure if he's talking about Elden Ring or Tiny Tina.
I'm pretty sure he's talking about Elden Ring. He says Elderly. I know it's a long game. Did anybody, in their opinion, that played it think it's worth the $70?
It's so worth $70, Jesse, mate. I'd
say yes
for that game.
Yeah,
no problem.
Jesse, everyone in
doubt.
Together, we've all bailed each other out of really bad situations. It's that fun.
$70. It's only $60 though.
Yeah, exactly. It's only $60, so I don't know why.
Yeah.
Why the
and
question?
No microtransactions. Can you believe it?
Right.
No.
Full game with no
amount
It's
of
the
content
biggest game I've
that
ever
you
played.
get
The biggest game.
It's crazy how
Without
big
question.
that game is. The map just keeps
I love it.
growing.
Listen, I love it, but I still wouldn't pay 70 for it. I'm telling you that right now.
Look, I would. Yeah,
Same.
I would. Oh,
I
definitely
wouldn't
would.
pay 70, but you know what? It's inevitable when the $70 when everybody charges $70 eventually. That's the day I'll have to start spending that type of money. But for now, it's wait for sale.
Yeah, look, Jesse said something else. He said, I'm just trying to figure out if games over 40 hours were worth $70. Yeah, but look, I'm going to say
Depends
to you,
on the game, mate.
I'm going to say to you, yes, 110%. It depends. Well, it depends on the game. But I think if you've got $70 worth of content, it's like buying anything. Like if you're buying a car and it's got all the bells and whistles, you pay the extra few $1,000. If it's a game that's got all the bells and whistles and it's got the length, it's got the engagement, like you want to engage with the game, it's got everything in it that you want, then sure, man, like $70. But just blanket.
I'm the guy that buys a car and says, "Who needs a stereo? Who needs a window?
I can play off my phone. I don't need
I'm
that.
the guy that feels the stereo. What a coincidence.
But
I can't believe no one picked up on the length comment. I mean, what's going on, Jack?
That's what she said.
All right.
Penis joke.
All right, don't set him off. Don't
Comments
set him off.
Of Elden Ring. Oh man, the length of that. Oof. I didn't beat it until 7 days. I beat that 7 days, 44 minutes. That's how long it took me.
Oh man,
I'm still stuck on the elderly
of that
game.
content too.
Oh
The
yeah,
girth of that
that
content.
game is. Oh, she's girthy.
Very
I'll tell you
girthy.
that right now. She's
Very
got some
girthy.
weight behind.
She's thick.
All right, before
play
Jack goes off on a tangent, I'm going to move on to the next topic. Yeah, way ahead of you. Way ahead of you. Game Pass numbers. That we're going back to the GDC here. The Game Pass numbers are absolutely astounding, and they kind of shut down all the, again, going to swear, bullshit narratives that we've been hearing from people over the years about how Game Pass is damaging the industry, damaging developers, and damaging gaming. I think if anything damages
There's at least
gaming,
like 15 of them now. At least 15 of us that own Game Pass.
yeah, exactly.
No.
It's up to 28 million. Game Pass, just a couple of the figures here. Game Pass has contributed to the growth of independent developers and publishers, in some cases by up to 300%. Game Pass members invest 50% more in their total spend. 60% are buying more games, because someone actually quizzed me on this on Twitter, and they said that they weren't giving specifics. Well, that is specific. They're spending $60 on a game, buying a game, purchasing a game. They spend 45% more on add-ons and 45% more on consumables. And as Phil was saying, this just opens up options for developers and how they want to publish their games. And Game Pass broadens the funnel for day and date games. They're seeing at ID Xbox creators, so we're talking about indie games here, they're seeing 15 times more engagement with their games. And with large publishers, they're seeing 3.5 times more engagement. That's out of control. I love this news. I was all over Twitter with this. It's my favorite thing of the day. So did you guys get a chance to have a look into the GDC numbers? Fonz, go to you.
No, I just heard about this from you, but it's to be expected, really. I mean, when we heard the last time, it was 25 mil, 28 now. Yeah, it's about right. By the end of the year, when Starfield hits, it's going to be at least 30 plus million, probably around 35, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree with that.
Easy. it's gonna be growing exponentially when you get more of those big bangers coming to the service. Like I said, Starfield is going to be the biggest game for the platform. But don't forget, we're also possibly going to be getting Forza Motorsport at the end of the year as well.
That's right.
That's one that not a lot of people are talking about. And I've seen people on Twitter talk about GT7 in such a bad light that they're saying they can't wait for Motorsport. So,
yeah. And there's also a rumor that A Plague's Tale Requiem is coming in June.
That's big.
And launching straight into Game Pass. Yeah. Dreadpool, did you get a chance to get across this?
Oh yeah, I looked it over. It's if you're into this part of it, yeah, it's good news. I have to preface it though. Even though the numbers are right, according to Microsoft, Xbox, and the numbers look good, you got to remember these are all Excel files. Excel files, even though it's numbers and it's data can be manipulated. There's certain things that you leave out that will make certain other things look better, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So depending on what side of the fence you're on, I mean, look at Sony, right? They still push out number of sales, but you know what? They still count, but they don't, like nobody else counts anymore for whatever reason, is active users, right? Just like Microsoft said way back when with Xbox, we're not doing this console counting anymore. We're doing active users. So yet again, if they're throwing out there, we have so many million PlayStations, why are we counting this metric if they're not counting it, right? It's the same scenario. Is these numbers are great. They show good information. I just question what other information are they leaving out that we don't know about.
Well, I think it just shows the overall health of Game Pass. I mean, look, It doesn't matter to gamers really, but to me as a gamer, personally, it just shows me, first of all, that most of the Xbox guys that have been touting Game Pass for a while were right, and everyone loves being right, right? But also,
what's funny about the active users thing is that it was Kenichiro Yoshida, I believe his name was, for Sony. He was the one that actually said that on Sony's side that they at Sony should be counting active users.
Yeah, well, it is the metric that you should be measure games by. Well, you have to with Game Pass, like we were talking about before the show. You can't really measure the sales of a game when you've got a subscription service like Game Pass. You've got to measure the users. That's your metric of success.
Yep. But that's the other thing, though, is you can't use that as your only metric. You have to know how many consoles are out there to know, and because how many households have one console, and how many households have multiple players on one console versus the same time, how many of us have multiple consoles with one account? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So,
well, I can only speak for myself. I have multiple.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But and that's what I'm getting at. The metrics can be manipulated. Just because you're saying I'm counting active users, well, active users still has
I think it's a
number deficiency versus how many consoles you sold. Because yet again, the consoles, just because I bought 15 consoles but traded in 13 of them, right? It's overinflated that price. Active users, just because I'm not actively playing right now, I mean, what's the metric of an active user? You know what I'm saying? This is what I'm saying. There's certain things when it comes to these Excel files.
I disagree, Dreadpool. I think active users takes precedence over how many consoles is sold, because an active user is an active user. You can't change that metric. That's tried and true right there.
But what I'm saying is how long is that person considered an active user? Is an active user an account that's paid for but they're not playing? Is an active user somebody that played yesterday versus 2 days ago? That's what I'm getting at. There's certain specifics that we don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, how you would define?
As long as they're paying, they don't care, bro.
What
you see what I'm saying?
To me that it's working more than anything else is developers that are using the service are coming back to the service. Developers just want people to play their games.
I think everything they've added on top of that. They've given some more numbers that we weren't hearing before. Now, not only the active users, but also how the engagement numbers, how much they're spending. I mean, this is all very factual. It can be proven. I mean, the company can prove it And they're going along with it, saying, yes, this is all true. So, I mean, I can't be the one to say,
well, they're not.
nah, I don't believe this part of it or that
No,
part of it, because I can't.
I'm not saying that they're lying. I'm just saying what other numbers, and this time they're actually giving us more numbers to go off of. I'm just saying, when people only use one metric and then they stick with it, you know.
Yeah, well, I see what you're saying.
I kind of like how the PlayStation guys do sales, physical sales.
Right,
Yeah,
I'm just trying to be a little bit more.
It's just so stupid. Like,
he's just playing
the UK
devil.
sold more of this game.
I get what you're saying, Dreadful. A lot of it is marketing.
Right,
so
because I've been in the corporate field where I've had people tell me, "Oh, these are these numbers. You guys look bad." In the meantime, somebody else has showed me the same numbers, and they're like, "What do you mean that you guys look bad? You guys did great. Your numbers were top notch." But I had a different guy show me the same numbers with different information.
Yeah, well, look,
telling us that we didn't
exactly
do good.
What you're saying. You need a metric to measure up against. And you did make a really good point with the amount of consoles in a house to the amount of active users in a house. I mean, a metric of success for me would be someone who's bought a console logging in, being active every single day. Now, if you've got multiple users logging into one console, that's even better. That's a good metric. If that's how they're running the metric, I mean, we don't know.
And then you got guys like me
don't
who
know,
have
but the
multiple
developers
consoles.
do know.
Like I have Game Pass.
Yeah.
Like I have Game Pass, but I have two different. My son plays on a different console, yet he plays on the same Game Pass account because we game share.
That's true.
So
same thing with me and my nephew. That's right.
My daughter does the same thing.
Let me add this in, by the way, because this was recently shared by Idle Sloth on Twitter, just for spending, just to give you all a point too. Xbox Game Pass right now has on the Western market 60% spending compared to Apple at Arcade at 9%, Google Play Pass at 7%, PlayStation Play at 7%, EA Play at 7%, Ubisoft Plus at 4%, and other at 6%. So just to show you like how dominating it can be. So I have no doubt that what those numbers we're hearing right there are very, very, very much true.
Yeah, I don't think Dreadpool's saying that they're
I'm not
factual.
So. No,
he's just asking what metric.
Point,
what metric do they measure that against, and then how trustworthy are these numbers? I mean, I've had the same situation, Dreadpool, when my numbers were good up against last month, but then you measure them up against the month before, and they're not good. You know, so what metric are you measuring it up against? But I think when it comes to Game Pass, their growth year over year, their spending year over year, all this sort of stuff for Microsoft is massive, and it just goes to show you like all of the good faith improvements that they make with your FPS, your 4K boost, all this sort of stuff is bringing people to the console. You know, putting big games in there, like we had Outriders started last year. We've had Guardians of the Galaxy come in. We've had some great AAA games like drop into the Game Pass, not first party. But I mean, like, this is bringing people in, man. You get
Outriders was a good one.
You could say, like, okay, since I'm sharing the Game Pass with my son, you could say that there is showing 2 active users, right? However, they mentioned subscribers specifically, and if it's 28 million subscribers, that's only counting myself. So
what about the gold subscribers? What about, I know we're talking about Game Pass, so gold,
but they're not folded in yet, so they haven't folded them in. They don't count them as part of it.
You see what I'm saying? There's different
wait
things.
To get rid of gold, bro. I can't wait.
Right.
To get rid of gold.
Yeah, same.
I mean, at least now we have free to play, free access. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So those people don't have to worry about it. But that's yet again, I'm just pointing out that there's different metrics, and I'm not saying that they're lying. I'm just saying, I'm just questioning as
Pointing
to
it out,
how much of it. Right.
It's no
how
problem
much of
playing
this
devil's advocate,
can
mate.
we
I
get a little bit
understand exactly
more?
where you're coming from.
But I want more information.
What I really like from the numbers is not so much the AAA numbers and the fact that they're getting a 3.5 lift in player count. I really like the indie developer numbers, that they're getting a 15 times increase in players. They're getting a triple-digit revenue growth. They've always had a problem in shining and being seen, and their games being played outside of what most casuals will play. with these big AAA titles. And what I love about Game Pass is the amount of small indie developers that are getting a light shined on their games, and it's just going to bring more developers, to the table. It's going to bring more creative experiences to us gamers because they're going to be willing to try new things with this increase in revenue and the amount of eyeballs on their game. And yes, you can play devil's advocate all you want, but I do think that the numbers don't lie, and the numbers suggest to me that, especially for indie developers, Game Pass is king.
Agreed.
Pete actually gets regular paychecks from Xbox to promote Game Pass. So this is a paid advertisement from brought to you by Xbox. No, I'm kidding. Pete does not get any money for his comments. He's just an avid Game Pass lover. We're going to move on
He
to...
just shills for free. That's what he does.
Look, if you've just joined us, we're having a great show. We've got Fonz here, Dreadpool, and Jack Astronaut, the regular panel, Umbra, JediKnightPete, and myself. If you're first time here, please hit that subscribe button. We've got only a very, very small channel. We've got 20 people in the chat. You guys power the show. Thank you all for coming along. Hit that like button. Share it around. Get your grandma in. Get your brother. Get your sister. Anyone. I don't care who it is. Get them watching. We'll move on to the next topic, which is quite small, and then we'll blaze through this one because I do want to get to the FSR and I want to respect everyone's time. So look, the FTC has requested more info from Activision Blizzard. This is a bit of a story that got pumped up as well on Twitter that I noticed that some people were jumping on like doom and gloom. The FTC is looking too hard at Xbox. The deal's not going to go through. Look, this is standard practice, right? From what I could tell.
Yeah.
I don't. There's no danger, Jack. There's no danger, I don't think, of this not going through. I think from the look of all the shareholders, I think the largest shareholder, Pete, you said yesterday has a 7% stake. I can't see this being a bad deal.
Yeah.
Well,
a lot of people are forgetting. I mean, it's so anybody that understands anything about capitalist economics and the current sort of global geopolitical melees we find ourselves in, there's no reason to question it. Number one, and I know we've discussed it at some length, particularly Umbra and I, if I recall. There's a $3 billion breakup clause, right? You put a $3 billion breakup clause in anything. There might have been 20 acquisitions in entertainment, period, that maybe came close to that. So they're very confident, at least in terms of boardroom to boardroom. You don't have to be a fly on the wall. You don't have to be sitting in there to understand that. That's basic economics. Furthermore, you're looking at a geopolitical situation where, however you want to cut it, we are on the precipice of another Cold War, and there is a lot of political as well as economic competition between the Americans and the Chinese. There is absolutely no way that the American government, using an organ like the FTC, which is supposed to regulate that, right, is going to leave something like Activision Blizzard, an American company, right, that actively reaches into your homes and can put whatever it wants on your television screen, right, effectively, because you're going to buy what they sell, right? Your kids are going to play it. It's going to influence them. There is no way that the American government is going to remotely risk the chance of something like Tencent coming in and scooping it up. It's an American company. Microsoft is an American company. There is every incentive, both financial and geopolitical, to keep that here, to keep it in house.
Yep.
And it's 100% true. These American jobs on the line.
Yep.
And it's more than that. I think the only thing I think that people are hopping would be the particular news that the FTC is looking at that, and a lot of it's coming off. There was a big shipping deal broken off between I think it was Hyundai and the Danish company Maersk, and that was going to be huge, and the European Union ruled against that, right? Well, these are two American companies. There's no European Union with any degree of jurisdiction over what happened, So the idea that this would not go through, to me, is insanity. I think, obviously, and you just point to that breakup clause, everybody in those boardrooms was confident. That deal has been poured over by the sharpest Harvard and Oxford-educated attorneys that corporate America offers. You got a company like Microsoft, it's worth $2.5 trillion. It's worth more than Italy. It's the Italian GDP. It's worth more as a public entity. So I'm not worried at all. In fact, I would be more worried if there was nothing coming out on it. That would cause me a little more worry. It would be nebulous. So I'm very confident this merge is going to go through for a number of reasons. I know Umbra and I are in total agreement on that. We talked about it at length. I think anybody that thinks it will not go through, particularly given the sort of political climate of the world, let alone the economic indicators, I think that's pure fantasy, or it's fear mongering.
Yeah, this is pretty much standard practice.
Yeah,
I mean,
much.
Yeah,
they asked for more information on the thing, and I will add to this that the
Not only that. Oh, go ahead.
I will add to this that the Activision employees got together and signed a petition, I think last weekend, asking Microsoft to step in and stop Activision's union.
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's telling as well. Even the developers themselves are confident that this deal's going to go through, and that tells you how it's being talked about internally. Fonts?
At the office.
Yeah, it's obvious it's going to go through. Especially the most obvious part about all of this is the fact that if you look over at Sony, which are the video game market leaders, okay, even after this acquisition is done, they are still constantly, even though it's on a smaller scale, they're still actively pursuing other companies they've been acquiring, like the most recent Haven Studios. And nobody's batting an eye about this, about them being a monopoly or anything like that, which I don't, I advocate for either. I'm not saying that they're a monopoly, but they are the market leader. Even after this acquisition, it's not a big deal. Like, people, this is going to go through. Everybody out there that's fear mongering this, take a look at their usernames and stuff. Take a look at their Twitter handles and their pages and see what they're all about, and then you'll come away with like, yep, a fanboy. Knew it.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to.
To violate existing antitrust legislation, right, which would theoretically be the only way this would get shit canned, right? You would have to control, at least because, and I'll just use the American because I'm not sure, what it is in Australia, but these are two American companies, therefore, it's going to fall under that, jurisdiction. You would have to control legally, right? 47% of a given market. So if Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard, Take-Two, and Ubisoft, legally they would not be a monopoly. Just to put that into perspective.
Yeah, well, if you put gaming into perspective, we're not just talking about consoles. We're talking about PC, mobile. Those markets, those markets together, PC, and even just mobile by itself, is I think it's something stupid like 5 times or even 10 times the size of the console market. So I mean,
everyone's got a phone.
It's not even possible for them to buy up every major console developer, even PC developer, and they would still not be a monopoly. So this monopolistic talk, like you said. Look, I'm going to move on, Dreadpool, unless you've got something to add.
No, we had Hogue Law on Breakfast with Boom this morning and a couple of weeks ago, and this was to be expected, the second one. And he even said, it's not nothing different than normal. So this happening like this is not a big deal. People are fear-mongering. It's already passed the EU, so just because it's an American company, they are worldwide. So other people are looking at it too, and it's already passed them. So it's not a big deal. It's going to happen.
What holds it up? They were the ones that took longer in the Bethesda deal. They're usually the ones. They're very stringent, especially when European jobs are on the line. This will go through. Hogue's Law did put out a really good video. It's a 45-minute long video the other day. I recommend if you guys want to know any more information about it, to watch that. He still thinks there's an 80% chance that the deal will go through, so he doesn't quite put it at 100%. But that doesn't. He does stipulate that doesn't mean that there won't be any conditions on the actual acquisition. But he thinks it's a 80% chance of it going through. So, I would defer to his judgment. He's a lot more knowledgeable on this stuff than I am.
Yeah. When I saw Satya Nadella so confident, I figured it was over with. When I saw him say this deal will go through, I'm like, it'll go through. They're gonna grease the wheels, whatever they need to do to get this done. It's going to happen.
They don't even have to.
I agree.
And if they hold them up too long, Microsoft can sue them. So and that'll push that legal course of action to happen sooner. And with their confidence,
that's another reason why they asked for this extra information, because the FTC only has a limited of time to actually allow the deal to go through. And what this does is that it extends that timeline to give them more time to look into it. So it's all just this big legal process that everyone goes through now.
And the lady running it has a hard-on for tech companies.
Yes.
So
yes,
it's
but
all.
I don't think that's Microsoft. That's more
No.
Google. That's more Facebook. That's more
Did we forget about Edge and
yeah. I think the hard on is for more those companies because of the amount of influence they have over information at the moment. So I suppose Microsoft does fit into that category if you want to be technical.
Right. So more than likely, this is going to go smooth. It's just a standard procedure, and someone being a little bit more picky than normal. Yeah, it is what it is. I wouldn't worry about it.
It's just Uncle Sam dotting his I's, crossing his T's. That's all it is.
Yeah, and they did make a big show. I don't delve into American politics heavily, but they did make a fairly big show of being tougher on tech companies. Like, that's not going to stop the deal from going through, but they've obviously got to show that they're putting in due diligence. Otherwise, they're not living up to their promise.
At the end of the day, they're all like praying and hoping that Microsoft makes COD great again. That's what they're praying for. So, we'll see.
Activision actual workers have got in contact with Microsoft specifically to maybe get them to try and sort out some of the issues they're having. And I think Hogue pointed out a very other important factor in the information that Activision handed out. They had basically all their lawsuits that they're currently being investigated for, and it was a massive amount of pages. And he suggested that basically the shareholders are going to want to be able to wipe their hands of all these legal issues, and a good way to do that is to sell to Microsoft. It wipes their hands of the problem, and they get a really good payout at the end of the day, $95 a share. And I think at the time of making the video, Activision was at about $80 per share. So
I think it even dropped
nice
lower.
chunk of change.
I think it even dropped lower than that at one point. We'll move on to the next topic. If you're just joining us, thank you for watching the show. Please hit that like button, share it out, subscribe if you're new here. Look, this is something that I'm really, really excited about, even though I'm not a massive tech guy. But I can do math, only very basic math, but I can do it. Fidelity FX and FSR 2.0 is coming to Xbox sooner rather than later. And just looking at some of the figures, some of the increases are double. Double the frame rates they're getting on PC rigs in certain games, like Far Cry 6. I think they were initially getting 120 frames per second, and they boosted that up to 333 frames per second, just using that one singular tool. This is pretty exciting because Fonz on RDX, you guys talked a lot about early on. Before the consoles are coming, you guys talked a lot about what was coming and what was going to be possible in the way of ray tracing, the frames per second, and the fidelity that we'll be getting 4K. And look, as Xbox hasn't really delivered what Xbox promised they would deliver, but they do have a GDK that can deliver what they promised. I just don't think we've seen it yet. And look, there's a lot of talk about tools. I think every podcast talks about the tools. But I think this is a step in the direction of being able to really see games achieve their full potential on Xbox. I think we're looking into a future of ray tracing at 120 frames per second, with an upscaled 4K. You've got to remember that this is 2.0 of FSR. It's going to be constantly developed. We might end up at a 3.0, however we end up. But there's other tools that they've been using, like VRR, mesh shaders, machine learning. All these things that they can put together to give the developers more headroom to give us those larger, better, more beautiful games. When I saw this, I was super, super excited. I think like Pong Sol says quite often, this is the golden age of gaming, and I think we're seeing the real beginning of this new gen. Did you get a chance to read about this, Dreadpool?
Yeah. It's definitely a good thing. It's stuff we've been waiting on. Now the question is, for me, how soon will these developers actually be using it once they get their hands on the tools, and will they actually be using it? Because we've seen what the Xbox One S theoretically can do, but we haven't seen it actually do it.
Series S, you mean Series S, or?
I'm sorry, Series S. What'd I say?
Gotcha. What S? I'm with you. Yeah, well, look, that's the thing. They're getting 30%. I think it was VRR. They've updated their VRR about a month ago, I think that was. and they were getting 30% more headroom out of their GPUs. That's massive. When you're talking about from 120 frames to 333 frames on a PC rig, that's huge. The savings on that are huge. That's over double. So that's
there's even a dev that even said that these other developers are not putting the time into the Series S.
Yeah. I did.
So it just goes to show you that, you put a little bit of time fine tuning stuff. If you get the right tools, you can do a lot. With this being added on, for the resolution upscaling, that could also mean some smaller game sizes.
Do you think fonts
we'll have smaller files?
Do you think fonts that these guys, the third-party developers, are not using the tools because they are got their feet in both pools? So they don't want to obviously upset the apple cart over at Sony and PlayStation. So if we get games that are performing too,
most definitely, I think that's why we haven't seen a lot of these tools being utilized. Is the fact that Sony is the market leader, and they do a lot of these developers anyway. They'll create the game first for Sony's console, and then create the Xbox version or whatever. I think this happens a lot, and
especially with
they just don't
VRS,
use the tools.
that hasn't been used at all.
But what makes me kind of annoyed is the fact that Microsoft. So a lot of their studios don't even use some of these tool sets, and I'm just confused, with the mesh shaders and everything. Even that wasn't being utilized. It confuses me. They should be using all of the tools, and create the best possible game they can. I'm not saying they won't do it. Hopefully they start, because I want to see what all these tools supposedly do to these games, because looking at that FSR demo, it's incredible. The amount of more resolution they're getting out of these games, squeezing off of these older cards. They could very easily push the Series S even into some 4K gaming at 60 frames, and it's eye-opening. And it's something that Dealer and D-Batch, they've been saying this for years about these consoles. And I just want to see it, No,
what I really like about FSR is that it's open source, so it's open up to everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to make a big difference in its implementation. So you don't really even need to have an AMD GPU. You can have an NVIDIA and it'll still work. I think that's going to really affect how many people use it. I think it'll be implemented a hell of a lot more. I'm not really too sure why FSR 1.0 wasn't utilized, because it really wasn't utilized at all. But the gains in what they get out of FSR 2.0 just seem too good to not implement. And so I'm hoping that these games start to utilize this technology, because it really, really is... it really is impressive. I was a little bit concerned that they weren't using a machine learning technique behind it, but after watching the video that AMD put out, they basically said that there's not a one-size-fits-all technique that will always work, and they said that the algorithm that they have designed doesn't actually need AI, and the benefits they get are actually equivalent to them. And I think D-Batch made a really good video about that, where he basically points out the fact that you really can't notice a difference between the DLSS technology and this FSR 2.0. And yeah, like I said before, going on the fact that it is open source, I do think that this will be utilized more. And another thing that AMD said is that if you're already using temporal anti-aliasing in your game, which I would say most games would be using, then this FSR technology will be very easily to implement. So basically you just transfer your TAA that you're already using in your existing game, and you transfer it into FSR, which isn't that hard of a technique, and they're going to walk you through that process. And the benefits that you get look great at the moment, so I can't wait for it to be utilized, and can't wait to see where they go with this technology. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I'm with you guys on it. What it comes down to, though, is like what Fonz pointed out. It with PlayStation being a market leader and games being developed largely on that, and then ported or done for the Xbox. That's why we've also had this issue where PlayStation has outperformed it in some cases. So I think it's going to come down to first party for Xbox to really push the technology and use all the tools to really showcase what can be done.
I think the good news, though, Umbra, the good news there is that FSR 2.0 is apparently on the PlayStation 5 as well. And
yeah, they got to use Vulkan.
That's my understanding.
It will be. It isn't at the moment, but it will be. They need to work on it a little bit more. But like I said, it's open source.
Faster, so we can get that fast track to getting this utilized more often from these third-party developers.
It has to become a standard. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, they're using Vulkan versus DirectX 12, so that's why it's
a different.
It's taking Sony a little bit of time to tweak it out for them.
But there's really,
and that's the main thing is that Xbox with their developers, they need to show what their tools can do. If they're not the leaders in it, then what's the point of all these other devs using the tools?
I think they will be, but what's been happening at the moment is we're basically in that cross-generation time frame, and COVID has extended that time frame. So going forward, we're going to see that.
I think Xbox is pretty much leaving last gen.
Oh, definitely. And we're going to see that in Starfield, aren't we, Fonz? Where basically it's going to be the next gen only game.
And that game better shine.
Yeah. And Forza Motorsport as well. All both dropping at the end of the year. And I think when we see these games, it's going to have to push Sony to start using these next gen only techniques that are really going to start to optimize. And I think the Xbox's power, although we've been waiting for it for a long time now, I think it is coming.
Yeah, look, it kind of says all this sort of stuff says there's really no excuse for with these tools for PlayStation to be outperforming Series X. On paper, it's the more powerful console. But I mean, like you said, Fonz, obviously, if they are developing for Vulkan first and then porting them over to DirectX 12, yeah, I mean, obviously that makes things a little bit more difficult. But like we've all been saying, I think first party is where it's going to be at. Like I agree, Fonz, it does have to shine. Jesse Darby in the chat has a question for us. Is it coming to PlayStation? Because I know they just announced VRR for PlayStation. I'm not 100% a tech guy, but this is what I think.
Yes.
I think that it's
yes, it is.
That FSR is and Fidelity FX is hard baked into the chip. So PlayStation has a chip.
It doesn't need to be hard baked into the chip. It's open source. It can be used on all GPUs.
And it is coming to PlayStation, like I talked about with Vulkan. They're using Vulkan, so they just got to make it compatible.
There's been zero excuse for PlayStation 5 not to have VRR all this time for over a year now. It's ridiculous that they still don't have it, and even now they're kind of playing it with it behind the scenes, and we're seeing screenshots of VRR being enabled on the console, but we're still getting it's coming in the coming months. Like we've been hearing this since last year.
I bought the Sony X900 HTV and it was meant to come with VRR, and they finally implemented it, I think, over a year and 3 months later, and it's suboptimal at best. You have to turn off a lot of, other things in the TV for it to actually work. And they're using that same technique on the PlayStation, so I don't know how effective it's going to be. I really don't. I hope it works. That
it's going to be full-fledged VRR. It's going to be really, just as effective as the Series X's VRR. But just my main complaint is that it's not there now, and it should have been. It should have been a standard, especially with HDMI 2.1. That is a standard there. Like VRRs should have been there. But now going forward, I think that I think Xbox especially will start using these tools, and who knows, Starfield could be using some of this stuff and showcasing this at E3 this year or around that time, because we're going to get like a 15-20 minute demo from Bethesda, and it's going to blow us away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the reason we haven't seen it yet, because that's another thing that's been going on Twitter lately, and I've been hearing it as an excuse from the stables or a reason from the stables why Starfield is not up to standard. Now, I'll just say it again. I think I said it last show. Bethesda do not release gameplay footage until they're a couple of months out from release. It's a standard practice. They've been doing it for years. There's nothing different just because Microsoft owns them. It's not a reason.
Skyrim.
Yeah.
Skyrim, they didn't show a bit of gameplay until February, like at the end of February, the year it dropped in that November. So they showed a little bit of gameplay in February.
Mm-hmm. So we're a few months out. I think we see something in. I honestly think we see something in June.
E3.
Yeah, well, I don't know. E3 is still up in the air. They haven't confirmed that they will be having one, but Xboxes, they usually do an ID.
They'll do their thing.
Yeah, they'll do their own thing. Well, they'll show.
Yeah, they usually do an ID at Xbox. They've done that. They might do another ID at Xbox because they have sometimes done two prior to the big AAA, and then they do a AAA, man, and that's their standard. They've been doing that for years. If it's been at E3 or not, like
I think they might even do just a Bethesda thing and
I could see that.
Starfield and Avowed.
Yeah, that's what I could say that as well.
Well, I think, it's just it's basic logic, right? So you're gonna go into the summer where people are working fewer hours, kids are out, all of that, and then the game comes out in November. It's a perfect excuse for one final marketing push because it's not just Starfield. You're advertising Game Pass. You know what I'm saying? You're putting your entire business model up for sale. It's a perfect opportunity. I can't envision them that close to release, not giving us something. It wouldn't make any sense.
And this is traditionally how their marketing cycle goes. They're quiet start of the year, and then Microsoft a quiet start of the year, and they ramp things up towards the end of the year. I want to move on to the next subject because I know we are hitting the nearly 2.5 hour mark. We've only got a couple more topics to go. This one I found kind of funny. Godfall is it was a money-hatted game by Sony. Sony took it as an exclusive, and
better than Halo, mate. Better than Halo.
In my personal opinion, this has really hurt this game. You might have got a third more sales out of the Xbox guys dropping because this, like Pete was just saying, this game was touted as the it game. It was going to be the big thing. It dropped, and it was god-awful and disappointing. And now everyone knows this, and it's coming to Xbox. Man, I just think they lost a lot of money. I think that's an opportunity thrown down the toilet, and a bit of a bullet dodge if you're on Xbox, to be honest. Is anyone thinking about buying Godfall?
Nope.
No. And Sony, and to say that
Not
they
even
lost a
remotely.
lot of money, I don't know about that because they got handsomely paid by Sony, I'm sure, for that exclusive deal. Mm-hmm. So they made something there. And they might have sold a couple of copies. Who knows? From what I hear, even PlayStation guys don't like the game. The thing is, this was supposed to be the Destiny killer. Remember that?
Yes,
I remember.
This thing was just so touted and pushed so hard, and when it dropped, reviewers just slammed it, and rightfully so. The game just doesn't seem like a very good game.
You might even say it's god-awful.
It did look beautiful when they first showed it. It did look beautiful. I remember when they showed the first images of that, when we were
nice.
What? We wanted to see all those next gen games. I remember when they first showed it. This is why it was touted as Destiny killer and all that kind of stuff, because it looked amazing. And then when actually people got hands on, it's a different story.
Dreadful.
Are we talking about the same game?
Yeah.
Because to me, they look like PlayStation 3 graphics.
No, I think they look. I thought they looked really good. I think the problem is
You're talking about the trailers that they were showing.
The only the only thing that looked impressive graphically was the particle effects and stuff.
True.
But other than that, I was just like, eh.
Well, that's another point.
I didn't think it was amazing.
Sony does have a really bad habit of shushing up their trailers, right? They did it with GT7. It was very purposefully did not show any footage from behind the car within a race. They showed a lot of studio footage. So, that wasn't by accident.
The trailers that they showed before the game came out and actually people got to see gameplay did look amazing. And that's why it was touted as so big. And a lot of people were saying this is going to be better than Halo and it was going to be a Destiny killer. And that was all off the back of these trailers. So it was really marketed really well, and Sony was really, really pushing it at the time. I think they had that and Astrobot, as their next gen games.
Oh, who cares? Nobody's going to buy this game. Let's be honest. Nobody's buying it. Like the only people that'll get, that might buy it, they're going to be duped into buying it. They may have forgotten about it, or they're casuals that don't know anything about it.
I'll ask you then, Fonz. Would you play this if it came to Game Pass?
No, hell no.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
That's the only way. That's the only way I'll touch it.
That's the only way they
play
get people to play it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
But would
I would
No.
play it. Yeah, I would play it if it was in Game Pass.
Game Pass, yeah.
Just to say that I've played it. I mean, you look at Outriders. Look at what happened there.
Yeah.
You know,
But Outriders was actually fun.
Exactly. Outriders
I
is
love
fun.
Outriders.
Yeah.
Yeah, but God Awful, I've seen the reviews and I've seen the gameplay. It's not fun.
And so
You can't-
But God Awful's a live service game, right? So they could have put some time in it to bring that game back. Like Anthem. Anthem came back in a big. Oh, hang on a minute.
Yep, exactly.
Oh my God.
BioWare, BioWare personally shuttered that. I was looking forward to sort of the Anthem reboot.
Anthem 2.0.
I was looking forward to the game, and then it launched, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
it's got
I
some
was
great
a day one
flying
purchase
mechanics.
Yeah.
And
By far,
even the
that
game
was the
itself-
best flying.
It was.
Yeah.
And the gameplay itself was okay too, and I could have got with that gameplay loop. However, the constant loading was just terrible.
Yeah,
It was
and the
pretty
lack
Going
of content.
into
Like
city
the,
and talking
Yeah,
to
it
those
was lack of content
NPCs
for me,
was
Yeah.
terrible.
yeah.
I don't know if anyone played it after they introduced the weather into it and they had those tornadoes and stuff.
Yes,
one of
it
the
did.
first big drops. It got a little bit better. And I
Yeah.
still like the gameplay loop. I like playing that with my friends. And I think they could have made something out of it. But that game needed to sit in the oven for 2 more years. It just was not ready.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't. Yeah, and that's a sort of game where, when it comes out, you have to have some sort of roadmap. You have to have something. You have to know where you're taking it, and it launched blind, and it was a failure. And I think, when it comes to Godfall, the expectation that anybody on Xbox, right, would buy a game that has already been reviewed and sort of determined to be a creative abortion on PlayStation. I don't see that game selling at all. If they, like Fawn said, if it was on Game Pass, sure, I would. But even if it was on Game Pass, I would only try it out to see if it is as shit as they say.
Yeah.
Even
That's
my
exactly what I would do.
Yeah.
Look at No Man's Sky.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
was abortion when it came out, but they put time and work into it, and apparently it's good. I don't know, but I'm hearing that it's better, much better than it was when they first released it.
Yeah, the word on the street is that
Yeah.
game's great now. Like it's apparently like not
Same
the
thing
same
with
game.
Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
Same thing with Sea of Thieves.
I don't want people to take things out of context here either, because if anybody on the panel is stating that they would try it if it's in Game Pass, that's one thing, but they're not asking for this game. Don't get it twisted.
Not at all.
No.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah, I think it would be a waste of time
Or
putting
from
it in Game Pass.
I'd rather
yeah.
ask for a root canal than God Awful.
No, I mean, if Xbox is going to pay money for a game to be put
No,
in Game
that's
Pass, I would rather it be a better
not that
game.
one.
Yeah.
I would rather them
Definitely.
try to sling me another fuzzy controller. than
Agreed,
put
but
this on
it kind of feeds into don't bring up the fuzzy controls. It kind of feeds into I could sleep with that though. That'd bring comfort. You can cuddle up to your controller at night, clickety clack.
Yeah, little shed carpeting.
Look, there's nothing really coming. We've got not much coming in the way of games in the next month or month after. That's like hugely. That's a huge AAA thing. There is games, but there's
Did
not
you
a
look
lot.
into that
There's not really nothing
Plague
big
Tale
on either
Requiem
side.
thing? I'm not
No,
sure.
that's not true. That's not true. You're
true.
all wrong. This summer, technically, I'm very surprised we all missed it. It still has a summer 2022. I know that pisses off the
What's that?
Australians.
Who's
But within the next,
Which will be
within the-
winter for us.
yeah, right. For you, it would be winter. It's a hot, right? It's summer 2022. Redfall is still listed. It's being overlooked. But there are no delays announced. Redfall is a big game coming out of Arcane.
Yeah,
That's going into Game Pass. I feel like we're really overlooking that because I honestly think Redfall has the potential to be something great.
Well, absolutely, and we do have an Arcane developer on next week, so maybe we can ask him what the hell's going on.
Yeah,
That worries me that they haven't said
Arcane are
anything.
fine developers, but
But it worries me that
some
they
of the
haven't
things I'm
said anything
hearing-
about that game. But
What are you hearing?
well,
What are you
some of
hearing,
the things
Fonz?
I'm hearing, just I'm hearing that calm your expectations. That's all I'll say. Just,
That's easy for me. I got no expectations.
yeah, just you know,
That's rougher for
be
me.
like, don't
excited.
be like, oh my God, this is going to be a big AAA blockbuster.
What's supposed to be?
Yeah,
Arcane
well,
is a play. If
I'm
it's
excited
anything-
for it, but I'm not
You
very
You know how
that.
some developers use AAA very loosely. You know, there's been a lot of games
Sure.
that have been passed out there. Yeah.
But this would be if it so for once and I'm not saying you're wrong at all.
And I'm not
Obviously,
saying it's a bad game. Don't get me
Right,
wrong.
no,
I'm just
no.
hearing
But-
that it's not what people are like really talking, like pushing out there. Oh my God, this is going to be so great. This is going to be the best co-op game.
But if it's not though, that's problematic.
no,
I-
not necessarily. Well,
Well,
not
for
necessarily.
because that's Arcane. I mean, that's a very big tentpole, first party umbrella studio. And I mean, I'm looking at Arcane, and you look at Arcane's library of titles. They're great. Dishonored was great. The Prey reboot was great. Deathloop.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys played it. I love
For,
Deathloop.
for that reason, that's why I'm not
Well,
worried.
we've had
Yeah,
great
I'm with you.
developers though make passion projects all the time, and they're not all great, And
Sure, I'm not
I'm
saying
not
this
saying
is
this is a
like
passion
bleeding
project,
edge.
but
Yeah.
I'm just saying this is something that I don't think is as big a game as some people might believe.
It's also Arcane's first foray into co-op, so we have to
that
see where
looter
they go into
shooter.
that.
Just
Open.
temper
Yeah.
expectations. I'm sure it'll be a fine game, but yeah, I'm not.
I mean, my
expecting huge
expectations are
things from
tempered
it.
because it's Boston. I know how terrible everything in that area is, but I'm well acquainted with the degree of awful that entire. But I feel like
think
if
what
this
Boba is
is
saying in the chat right now is kind of on the mark from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I've been expecting the entire time. It did look very much like
I hope not.
a Back for Blood.
As
kind
long
of-
as it's not a passion
I thought it
project
was-
like Bleeding Edge.
well,
Oh,
I thought.
yeah.
That-
Well,
I
Bleeding
looked
Edge
at
was
it
made by
bad,
12
but-
people. That's completely different.
Yeah, I
No,
was.
I'm just saying.
I looked at it as Left 4 Dead meets Borderlands. That's kind of how I was looking.
That's
at
how
it.
I
Probably
saw it.
something like
I
that.
saw it
Yeah.
the same way.
Probably a little like that, but yeah.
Because I mean,
graphically,
or
not
analogous
so
to it.
impressive.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but even in the trailer, you got. I mean, obviously we look at
Well,
trailers.
did you guys see the leaked images? and
Yes,
stuff?
I did.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I
But
thought,
that's you can't
Right,
judge
right.
you can't judge the game on that. That's hyper compressed
no,
footage.
no,
so,
no. I'm not saying that is it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's not too far off.
if that is the case, Fawns, I think this would be a pretty big failure. If
I
that is-
agree.
I don't know,
I agree.
'cause, any game. Okay, you could say that about Tunic. Then you could say that about Death's Door. They're not the most graphically impressive things,
but they
they're
don't sell
fantastic
themselves
games, right?
as right. But they don't. But that's not.
Yeah, they
that's
don't
not a
sell themselves as
byproduct of a
AAA,
first party.
right.
So I think
Right.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
I'm not. But see,
Jack-
the problem is.
Jack, I think that look, if it's
Yeah,
any
people
game
that-
that
people
if it's
know
any
me
game
as being negative, and I might be a tad negative on things, but I'm just saying
look,
temper expectations.
you're not paying for the game.
I'm not saying it's bad.
Yeah,
not
that's
saying it's
true.
terrible. It could
well,
be a
no.
fantastic, fun game.
Yeah, you're not paying for it. It's like Back for Blood. Back for Blood was a laugh. It was great. Didn't pay
Yeah.
for it. Would I have bought that game? No. Did I have fun in that game? Yeah, absolutely. So I don't.
Yeah, but I mean,
you got to look at it from
No,
that
I
kind of point of
agree.
view, man. Like,
But
I wouldn't be
I see what
expecting
you're
that.
saying.
It's-
But I think it's a reasonable expectation for an Arcane IP to be AAA. I think that's a reasonable. That was a trailer shown at E3. That was something that was hyped. I feel I would feel if it does not live up, not to necessarily.
Do you
to even-
think? Well,
Go
you
ahead.
look at games like Arcane's other games like Dishonored
Sure.
and Deathloop. Do you really think those are showcases? To me,
I think they were.
not
What about
graphical
Youngblood?
showcases.
Youngblood.
Yeah,
Well,
but
Youngblood.
they were
we don't-
also shown Redfall was shown as the last game
Yes.
at E3. It was the
For a reason. It
T-shirt
was a
and the
closer.
jacket that everybody was wearing. That was their most hyped game for that absolutely excellent E3 show.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
their big game. That's what makes it a little bit
Because,
different to
let's
the other
be honest,
titles.
that trailer they showed was phenomenal. That's why.
It was amazing.
It looked amazing. But then we saw those leaked screenshots and we're like, that didn't look anything like that trailer. And
but that was pre.
I don't know if I agree with it was their most hyped game. It might have been their last show, but that E3 was absolutely sensational. There was so many games in that
it was a
showing.
E3.
Yeah, it was great.
So I mean, I don't know about most hyped. I think they were showing banger after banger after banger, and Redfall was the cinematic that they showed at the end. You know, so
Yeah, it was the closer.
Everyone was expecting Halo Infinite to be the closer, and it was very surprising at the time for them to show Redfall as their closer, and they opened with Halo. I think that showed a lot of faith in that game, and if it doesn't turn out to be a great game, I still think it's a failure. Although, I'm going to hold off until I see.
And don't get my words twisted, guys. I'm not saying it's not going to be a great game. It could be a very fun game. I'm just saying, let's just say, visually impressive. Temper expectations on the visuals and all that. Like, don't think it's going to be like a showpiece.
I don't think they've ever done. Dishonored wasn't
because Arcane's not known
impressive.
for that.
No, they're not.
No, it's not.
Well, Deathloop was extremely impressive.
Yes, that was the other.
And that to me, I look at Deathloop, I don't see that.
I loved it. I thought that retro futuristic sort of. Oh God, I thought it was fantastic.
And that was a different.
Even
studio,
outside
though.
of the visuals,
you got to remember
that
was
gameplay wise. You're saying, right?
Out of Texas, yeah. There's 2 studios. One in Lyon in France, and I think one in Austin, Texas. If I'm not mistaken, France did Deathloop, and America is doing Redfall.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So they're different studios. You know, under the same umbrella, but they're under Microsoft. If the game ends up in trouble, you know that they're going to tell Microsoft, and Microsoft is going to give them the time that they need to get it to where they need it to be.
I hope so.
But speaking of games that we're not getting Suicide Squad this year. It's been delayed. And man, it's looking pretty tight. There's a lot of 2 TBDs going on this year. A shitload of TBDs to be decided, releasing in 2022. And in between now and then, we've had almost everything that we're going to get. I think the only one that I would be interested in is Evil Dead. But I mean, April, you're looking at Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate, but that's PC. You've got the Centennial Case. That's on PS5. Evil Dead's coming to Xbox. 2 Point Campus. Vampire the Masquerade. Maybe in Game Pass.
I'm excited for
Golden
that one.
Token. There's nothing coming. We've got nothing. At the
Saints
moment
Row's
coming.
April, right?
Yeah,
so Saints Row in April.
It's
they moved it to October, didn't they?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, they moved it.
Oh,
yeah,
it got moved to
they
October.
pushed it back, quite a lot. And I think
yeah.
that's because of the negative feedback that they got. And I hope that they take that on board and we get a better game at the end of it.
I mean, you've got King Arthur Knight's Tale. Again, that's on PC. There's just not a lot.
Oh no,
coming out.
it's actually August, by the way, guys. August 23rd.
I thought
is
most
August.
of the negative feedback is something that can't really change, and that's that narrative to that game. The whole, you know, I'm trying to, be a gangster now and steal money for my tuition for college. Like,
it was crazy, right?
Yeah, it's like holding up a bank for UNICEF. Like no one wants to fucking do that, you know?
Yeah.
It was a very
Saints Row
weird.
games have always been really fun.
But even then, I still said that I would play it because I play all the Saints Rows just because they're so crazy and out there, and I love the sandbox.
Can I ask you a question, Fonz? Are you as excited about knocking off a liquor store for the Make-A-Wish Foundation? You know,
yeah, exactly.
You can't have a game that revolves entirely around the concept of rampant criminality.
That's kind of what we got with Watch Dogs 2. That's why I couldn't connect with the characters.
Yeah, that became a sort of activist.
It was weird. Like they were drinking lattes and sitting around the,
Yeah, it was everybody who ever wanted to beat the hell out of. No, I fully
people
understand.
with yo-yos. What kind of mechanic is that? You use a yo-yo in a fight.
Yeah. I agree. I'm
pretty sure Jackie Chan's done that. I've definitely seen Jackie Chan.
Yeah. But if Jackie,
he doesn't want trouble though. That's the problem. That's the difference. He doesn't want trouble.
Yeah.
But again, I played through Watch Dogs 2 because I love open world games. I love the sandbox. So I play these bad games sometimes just to play them. And I would play.
I do too.
I bought that game. I haven't played it yet. I just thought about that.
Well, look, guys, I'm going to start to wrap up the show, man. We would normally put this on your radar, Weird West chat, but unfortunately this week, again, because of the same issue last week, is my son's not very well and he was rushed to hospital last night. He is okay. He's doing okay at the moment. I've been doing regular checks throughout the show. He's fine. The missus is looking after him. But unfortunately, there's a couple of things that I just could not get done for this week, and one of them is put this on your radar. But we were going to talk about Weird West. It does look absolutely amazing. It is coming very, very soon. Pete, when is Weird West out? I believe it's this month.
March 31st.
Yeah, March 31st. It looks is it twin stick or is it XCOM like?
It's a twin
I
stick
think
shooter.
it's twin stick.
It's twin stick shooter.
Yep.
So we're talking the
So
Ascent.
you're a twin stick shooter.
The
is-
Ascent,
Cowboys,
yeah.
So
Yes, but not exactly like the Ascent, where the Ascent where you're using a lot more automatic weapons. This is a little bit different. It's a little bit slower paced. It's
Six
a little
shooters
bit
and
more
shotguns.
stealth orientated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, keep your eye out for that one. Next week, I'll put Weird West in the next week's. Put this on your radar, and we'll show some footage, and it'll be out. So I'll have it on screen, and that'll be something that we can talk about next week. Guys, thank you very much. It was an absolutely fantastic show. Everyone that came through in the chat, you guys power the show. You guys are absolutely amazing. You keep the chat going, and you're the reason that we're here. And look, I love doing this show, but it wouldn't be the same without having some of the characters that we get in chat every week. You guys are amazing. Thank you very, very much. And I don't get to interact with the chat as much as I can because I'm doing things in the background, but I'm listening and I'm watching everything that you guys say and having a giggle at some of the funnier people in there. I just want to thank.
What are you doing in the background, Riskit? What you doing in the background?
That's why I'm muted.
Delete. Yeah, he's
excited.
deleting his history right now.
That's funny.
I just want to thank our guests, Dreadpool and Fonzarelli. Fonz, just let everyone know. Well, I'm pretty sure everyone knows where they can find you and all about your podcast, but just let us know where we can find you and your podcast, what you're up to.
Fonzarelli Gaming, and I know exactly what you're talking about, Riskit. When you're hosting a show, you're doing a million things at once and trying to keep up with the chat at the same time. It's really rough stuff, because I do the Games Talk Live on Sundays, 2 p.m. West Coast time. 5 p.m. East Coast. Check me out there on Sundays and Tuesdays. I'm on Dealer Gaming's channel on the pretty much famous RDX. A lot of people know about RDX, so that's probably where you've heard me from before. And we do our thing there on Tuesdays. But yeah, check out my channel as well, Fonzarelli Gaming.
Absolutely.
That's about it. And thank you for having me though, Riskit. Seriously, I've been waiting to come on to this show. I'm off right now recovering from surgery, so I was able to do it, and I had a great time. I've wanted to do a podcast with you and Umbra for quite some time, and I've been telling Umbra the same thing for months, possibly almost a year now. I'm like, one day we will podcast together, and that happened tonight. And I'm happy with this. Everybody here, JediKnightPete is a cool guy. Met him in party chats, of course, and of course the Jack Astronaut. Met you in a party chat as well and had fun with you. Dreadpool, always a pleasure, brother. I podcasted with you several times. Always a pleasure, man.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Thank you, really appreciate you, mate.
It's fantastic to have you here, man. We really appreciate you coming on the show. You've made my week. It was great having you on. And also, Dreadpool, man, you've made my week as well. I like to get into both of that Games Talk Live. It's on a weird time for Australians, but I try to get there as much as I can. And I do try to get to Game and Beyond the Box. I don't often get to chat because you guys are on when I'm running around doing housework at the house. So I'm usually there, but you don't hear from me. But I love your podcast. You guys are absolutely fantastic. What you do every week is amazing.
They're amazing, yeah.
Yeah, tell everyone where we can find you, what you're up to, Dreadpool. Yeah.
No, thank you. It's funny. I got to thank you for inviting me on here. Next time when you're vacuuming, put the earbuds in, and then you can listen to us. Just turn it up a little bit louder, But seriously, check out Fonza's show. He's got a great interview. I like his 5 questions.
Yeah.
I'm not, and a lot of times, I can relate. We can't always be in these shows live sometimes, or we are live and we're lurking in the background. Because usually that's what I do. Is I'm in the background lurking while I'm working. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I do what I do. I have earbuds in, and sometimes I'm not watching. I'm listening to you guys while I'm at work. So it could be
exactly,
and I'm listening. So
yeah, so exactly. So yeah, definitely. The chat powers everybody when it comes to these podcasts. So I got to thank the chat for always supporting everybody that's here. So it's It's been great. I had a great time here tonight, so definitely thank you again. And obviously, as you said, Game Beyond the Box Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, U.S., and then Breakfast with Boom Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern, U.S. And my stuff, Breaking Bread with Dread, is on Anchor.fm /Dreadpool. You can find me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Outcast, Boxcast, something, public radio. It's all over the place. I even found it on Amazon at one point in time. I was like, really? I didn't know I was there. So yeah, they've a lot of these places have picked me up. But
anything with a cast in it, you will find you in it.
Yeah, right. So I got a couple guys lined up for June, which is going to be a fun one. But I'm going to try to do each one separately, and who knows what happens. But in between now and then, I'm still trying to, work out the schedule. We've had some, obviously, stuff that happens in life that slows down the process. But we're going to try to get some more in between before that. But look forward to June for sure.
Awesome.
Fantastic,
so
man.
look up. Thank you. Look up linktree.com/Dreadpool. It's got all my links for YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, my merch. Our merch as GBTB. So definitely, again, thank you.
Oh, it's fantastic. Thank you, man, for coming on the show. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. Jack, man, you always come in and give us your hot takes, and they're always fantastic. You've got a lot of knowledge, and we love having you on almost every week. To let everyone know where you're from, where we can find you, what you're up to, fire away.
Yeah, the only place you're really ever going to find me is on Twitter. I understand that's strange because I am a millennial. I should be everywhere else. I'm not. I apologize. Yeah, that's pretty much the only place.
I hate you so much.
I know. I'm terrible. Get in line. You know what I'm saying?
No, you don't act like a millennial. That's for sure.
I am. I
Thank
swear.
you.
I will take that as the highest form of compliment I've ever been given.
You
Other
really
than
don't
that-
act like a millennial.
I would have thought you were. I thought you were an Xer.
No, I'm.
Yeah,
I'm a
he
no. Believe it or
does.
not,
I
I am a
agree.
millennial.
He does.
That's the best compliment I've gotten since I was at a urinal next to Elvis Costello, and he said I was cool. So, thank you. I appreciate that. No, and then most of the time at about 4:00 Mountain Time, you can find me at Chick-fil-A, or you can look up my OnlyFans. It's Station Wagon Man. No, I'm just joking. Thank you for having me on.
You almost got
it's
through
great
that.
to be-
Almost got through
I
that.
did. I know. I had to. Yeah, right. I got a 4th grade reading level too. But
Find you inside of a car park.
yeah, as a cap, in the Harvard Yard, of course. I'm always there. But no, thank you for having me on, guys. It's always a pleasure, especially to the other two guests as well. Dread, Fawns, thank you for coming down and slumming it with me. I appreciate it. It's always nice. Super chat or the chat as well. I don't know what the verbiage is. The guys talk about you all the time. By that I mean Pete, Umbra, and Risk It. You mean the world to them. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to chop it over you guys. I can't wait to murder you on Halo. Risk It. I'll see ya.
I look forward to it. And of course, always our panel, Umbra, JediKnightPete. You guys are amazing. Always here, always turning up, always helping in the background with everything that goes on. Jedi, just let people know where they can find you, what you're up to, how things.
I'm on Twitter at JediKnightPete, on Xbox at JediKnightPete. I just wanted to say then, when me and Riska were putting this show together, we looked up to the boys at RDX. We looked up to people at Gaming Beyond the Box, two of the best podcasts out. Fonz, I try and catch Games Talk live whenever I can. Thank you so much for gracing our little show. You guys were absolutely amazing. Jack, you're pretty much a panel member now, mate. And I wanted to say thank you so much. You know what for, mate. I don't know if you want it out there, but I really
you're all
appreciate
good,
you, brother.
No worries,
too
bro.
much, mate. You're too kind. Risk It, Umbra, as always. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me on. And the chat, amazing, as
And
always.
of course, Dreadpool, of course.
And Umbra.
What did I do?
What?
No, they make sure to
I'm
give shout outs to
kidding.
everyone.
That's the first thing I say. Where's my lawyer? I feel you, bro.
Um,
On call.
and Umbra, obviously every week coming in, holding down the show, man. You're amazing. Let us know what you're up to, where we can find you. Fire away.
That's Elden Lord Umbra.
I'm getting there, mate.
I'll thank you kindly to remember it next time. No, seriously. When we were told, Fonz, that we had you when you were coming on and Risky to talk with you, because you did. I do remember speaking with you. That was on my last account. I don't want to tell Twitter so they won't ban my current one, but yeah. So, but talking over the time, man, and over the years, I've been watching you for a while. So grateful to have you here. So when he said it, I was like, oh shit, So definitely excited and happy to have you here, brother, with us, and Dreadpool, you too as well. And like Jedi just pointed out, Jack, you're pretty much a panel member at this point. You're here with us all the time, brother. So we appreciate you always coming through for us. And
Appreciate you having me.
Oh yeah, of course. Please continue to come through. It was a great show. I love speaking with all you guys, and I thank the chat for always holding us down and being here as always. It'll take too long to name everybody, but thank you all for coming through. You can find me, of course, on Twitter and sometimes in the spaces. And yes, I'm still singing. So you come in there.
I was gonna say
I might-
you can find him singing in the spaces.
Yeah, you'll find me. You might have to ask you to sing with me sometime, but absolutely appreciate you guys.
All right, fantastic show. Once again, thank you to the chat. Thank you to everyone. Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button so you know when we go live or when I drop a review on Elden Ring, which is live right now. You can go to my channel, check that out. If you're already on my channel, check that out and let me know what you think of it. It's my first review. Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. We are out of here.
Fonz hates kids.
Later, everyone.